Okay, ready? I'm 1, Aaron's 2, Andrew's 3, Craig's 4. Ready?
Okay, great.
1,
2,
3.
Wait, no.
Craig was 4.
You dumbass.
1,
2,
3.
4.
Yeah.
All right.
That was really good stuff. All right, cool.
I'm not sure we just did.
What?
We're syncing. So now when
We're syncing stuff up. Yeah.
it's a different, we have to be comfortable with different sync methods in different people's houses, Craig.
That's
You
true.
guys
You're
clap?
right. You're right.
Is
What
that
do you
your
do?
sync method?
Do you
We do that.
clap?
We do
We're
3, 2, 1 clap.
clappers. I'm
Okay,
sorry.
fair enough. I found that I just can't. I just actually can't. So
Mhm.
I can only snap with one hand. I can't snap with my other hand.
Can't snap with either hand.
Can I snap?
And I can't snap with my dominant hand. I can only snap with my offhand.
Whoa.
very interesting.
It's not that interesting. You're very kind.
I find it very interesting.
Is this the podcast?
This might be
This is
the
the
podcast.
podcast.
Hey, how have y'all been?
It's a lot. Good. It's great to see you.
I'm buying a house. Craig's starting a new job. It's a time of great upheaval
Oh boy.
Yeah.
on our side of the mic. But
Yeah.
Yes.
Well,
But we're-
same over here. We just
Mhm.
sold our house. We're under contract for our house, and now we're like, hey, can we buy a house? We do technically still need to sell ours. Is that cool with you?
Mhm.
And people are
Mhm.
like, kinda. Ugh. So it's fine over here.
How about you, Aaron?
Oh, just normal. I have the same 3 jobs I always have.
Mhm.
Same 3 jobs, same 2 dogs, same one
Poor
husband.
thing.
Yeah. Staying here in this
Jobs.
house. Can't make me leave.
That's really the way to do it.
Our rock that's what you are. You're just keeping us all moored.
Steady.
Ooh, yeah. Yeah. And I'm the water that slithers around you.
Yeah, I guess.
I love
I have
looking at
no
a raging
follow-up.
river and being like, thanks, rocks.
Yeah. Rocks. You're doing the thing.
All right, so we made you guys read this book.
We did.
Yeah.
You did. Yeah.
Because
Once again, when are y'all going to make us read a book?
Per tradition.
per tradition.
Tradition, yeah.
But I thought this would be a good book to read because it was like the number one. I mean, I'm saying number one. This could technically not be true, but it was one of the most popular romance novels in 2021.
There was a
because
lot of hype. Yeah.
Because
Like,
it blew
big.
up on TikTok. It became like a huge viral sensation. And it had a interesting publication journey, which I thought you guys would find interesting.
Yeah.
And then, I thought a lot of people would know it, maybe even from your listenership that aren't romance readers, because it seemed like a gateway drug for a lot of people who are on like Book Talk and like
Yeah.
Bookstagram. So
Now,
And if you go to, there's a site, Amazon.com. I don't know if you've heard, they sell some books.
Oh, God,
in
I've
addition
never
to a bunch of
even-
other things.
Gosh. Thank
And
you
if
for
you
the
go
tip.
to their romance books page, this book is like big old featured banner, top of the page, like,
Yeah.
over every single other thing. So yeah, you could say that it's prominent.
I was just wondering if you could tell me what a book talk is.
It's TikTok for books, old
it's
man.
TikTok
I'm like,
for books. I'm not on it. It does sometimes creep into my For You page, which is like, it's not really honestly welcome there. But
Is it
I'm
like-
told that's the
is it
way
like a
this
lot of-
book got to prominence.
is it a lot of people being like, here's a book I'm excited about? Is it a lot of
Yeah.
reviews? I
Is
like
it
read
memes?
Is it
It's a lot
memes?
of it's a
So
lot of like
so it's
this,
all
a lot of
those.
like pointing, and then like books will appear, and it's like if you like this, you'll like this book.
Yeah.
Like
And
that
then-
kind of thing.
Or they'll be like,
Shaboopy,
So-
shaboopy.
That's
This book
exactly
is
it.
hard to get.
are
Yeah.
you a professional book talker, Craig?
Starting just now. I was
Neato.
playing dumb for the show.
That's great stuff. Yeah, no, and then what else? What else do they do on book talks? I'm mostly on the Monster Fudgers book talk.
I want to be really
sounds made
clear
up.
that I'm non-participatory in Melody's book talk. I'm on this podcast, and that TikTok is for a different.
It is. That TikTok is for bonkers romance, which goes different places than
Okay.
Heaving Bosoms does.
Okay.
So, I mean, mostly. So yeah, and then a lot of times it's like they'll just hold books in front of it, and then it'll be text being like, "Oh wow," or some of them are like comedy, like here are the tropes,
Mm.
like they'll do riffs on tropes and stuff. So Book talk's
Which
a fun
feels
Sounds
very
place.
relevant to this book, for sure.
Yeah.
Very
It's very
tropey.
aware of the
There's some
tropes and
tropes.
into them.
I noticed
meta.
some.
Ah. Yeah. It gets pretty meta about it, frankly.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
That's true. Yeah, this is like a much newer book than we typically cover on. We've been doing newer books more frequently over the lifetime of our show, but this is certainly one where it's like, what? This came out in 2021, and now Allie Hazelwood has 3 books coming out in 2022.
Yep.
Right.
Like this is her moment, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and it got so big so fast that then there was like a very quick like social media backlash to it as well, where there were like a lot of people being like, this sex scene is cringe. Like there was a lot of like, this is cringe and this is tropey kind of backlash. And there were a lot of people like dissing fan fiction and saying that publication shouldn't come from fan fiction. And this book feels fan fiction-y, quote unquote.
Blurred.
And like, what does that mean? What does it mean to feel fan fiction-y? And, you know,
Right.
like that it got into this kind of bigger discussion, which was really interesting as well.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like
Yeah.
I've run into this a couple of times, so this is completely unscientific, but I do think, especially for people who are like one generational rung below us collectively,
Yeah.
there's a
Below
tendency
an
to maybe
age.
younger. Younger than us. I was trying to be like highbrow and highfalutin about it, but I think there's a tendency to use the word cringe to cast a very wide net to describe
Yes.
a wide variety of different like
Mhm.
feelings about things. And
Well, and
Yeah.
frankly, like cringe a lot of times is in vogue. You
Mhm.
know, like those 2 crazy twins in Florida who like, you know, rapped or whatever. That they were cringe in a way that I can't even explain to anybody.
Mhm.
These characters, particularly Olive, the main character seems to know when she is extremely embarrassing to herself,
Mhm.
Yes.
I don't not even know if I'm using it correctly, but cringy.
Yeah.
And like the book seems to be interested in that feeling.
Mhm.
I mean, I found it very relatable content,
Sure.
you know, like as a quasi-professional clown. A lot of times
Mhm.
I know actively when I'm embarrassing myself, but I either can't stop or won't, you know?
Sure.
So that's, I thought it was fine.
But this is just the classic contemporary romance tale of 2 hot dummies who can't talk to each other. And that's
Yeah.
what most contemporary romances are about.
Yeah.
It really is the axis on which this book spins. Is
Uh-huh.
like nobody's ability. Like every conversation stops one sentence short of the one that would make the whole rest of the book stop working.
Exactly.
They just can't do it. They can't get there. They can't do
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
it.
It's paced like a lot of, you know, rom-coms, and a lot of where those movies live these days is on like your Hallmark channels. Though I know, you know, there is a Netflix rom-com thing that, you know, they're playing with it, but you don't see
Most
them as
definitely.
often in like wide release in film anymore.
Mhm.
But yeah, it's a lot of that like serendipity, both in the good way and in the complicating way
Yeah.
kind of stuff.
One thing that I did really like about this book is that it's set in the biology department of Stanford,
Uh-huh.
and all of the science not only felt simultaneously mostly accessible, but also very spot on, especially as far as like the politics of academia are concerned.
For sure.
And Allie Hazelwood is, you know, her life either other than writing romance or before writing romance, I'm actually not super sure, is in science academia. So
I read
it was neat.
interviews from her like on the circuit for this book talking about being a professor in the present tense. So as far as I know, she still is doing it.
yeah,
But then also talks about having her like AO3 profile still active enough.
Hell
there.
yeah.
I believe it is ever_so_Raylo is the
yes,
Great.
yeah, she's
Yeah,
a
and
big
Sounds
Raylo
right.
stan.
yeah, found that from her Tumblr.
Uh-huh.
So that's
Yeah, so
So
what-
she's on AO3. Craig, what else do you want to tell us about
Yeah,
her?
so she was born and raised in Italy. She lived in Japan and Germany before moving to the U.S. to pursue her PhD in neuroscience. As we said, this was her debut novel. Her other books due out, or I guess, I don't know when, if any of them have come out yet. Under One Roof, Stuck With You, and Below Zero, all slated for 2022 releases. I saw an interview with her on Collider that really dove into like the background. This might be one of the ones you were referencing, Andrew, about her AO3 background. And this is just her getting into writing. I was really, really into writing fan fiction, first for Star Trek and then for the Star Wars fandom.
Yes.
It was this amazing community. I made a lot of friends and I was just having a lot of fun. And then what happened is I slowly started thinking about trying to write something original, just to challenge myself and to do something different. And while I was in that kind of mood, my agent started reading my fan fiction on AO3, reached out with the DM and says, I saw something you wrote about pulling some of your fics and reworking them. I wanted to tell you I'm an agent and I would love to see some of your manuscripts. And just kind of goes on to talk about finding this, adult friendship community through fan fiction and that kind of spurring her on to write. We've covered other authors who've said similar things based on wherever they started writing. And then, it's very trope aware. Something that's mentioned in that interview is that it is very trope aware because you're often commenting on and remixing tropes in fan fiction anyway.
Yes. Yes.
So you're dealing with character archetypes. You're dealing with recognizable characters, so you have to nod to what they've done in their source material, but also play with the source material. She also mentioned that there was another sex scene that got cut, or another part of the sex scene that's in the book that got cut.
How dare you?
So I'm not sure why that happened. And then, there are a bunch of references to this basically being Rey and Kylo Ren fan fiction.
Yeah.
It is.
I mean, it works for me. And actually some of our favorite authors either like they met in fan fiction. So like Christina Lauren is a writing team and they were fans of each other's fan fiction for a while. And then they were like, oh, I bet we could write together. And now they do. And then weren't they the ones who met Sally Thorne and like hooked her up with an agent because they got to know each other in like the fan fiction sphere?
Yeah, I think a lot of romance authors started in fan fiction, like more than, are even widely known. And, think what you will of Twilight, but it was the vehicle that launched like thousands of, of great authors because it became such a fic world, when a lot of authors were like right at that high school age of like, now we're going to write romances about Edward and Bella. And then then they blew up.
Yeah. And like, I understand that I mean this in the most loving and least like derogatory way possible. But I feel like one of the driving forces of fanfic is like, make them kiss, make characters kiss who either didn't kiss enough or they never kissed and they should have.
Yes. I mean, Andrew, in what world would that be derogatory?
I just want to make sure that coming from me, a straight white man, like I want to make sure that I am saying that this is true and I'm into it and here for it. And I'm not trying to be snobby about it.
No, totally. And I was actually just thinking like, is there a world in which Ali Hazelwood like wrote slash fic? Because that is something I would definitely look into.
I mean, if she started in Star Trek, like that is where slash fic like came from. So
hell yeah.
I don't like, I guess I could just browse her archive and see what's in there, but but yeah, like, so on the argument on Twitter, wherever about whether, this is ficky or if that's bad or like, I'll say two things. Like one is her agent found her on AO3 and like brought her into this prominence from there. So I feel like you are clearly shutting yourself off to some kind of literary success if you're like not participating in this or if you're like disdainful of it. Like it's just it seems like a place where people can be discovered now and find each other, and I think that's great. And I had a second thing and I forgot what it was. So.
Well, one of the things I really like about fan fiction and like starting there, you know what? I'm just going to riff for a while and then you let me know when.
No, please do. And if I remember the super smart thing.
Well, one of the reasons that I think people who start in fan fiction are often so successful is just that so much of being an author and so much of writing is just sitting down and typing the words every day.
Yeah, sure.
And especially in sort of a lower pressure situation where you can get insta feedback from other people who are familiar with the world in which you're swimming. I mean, you get that practice of just like, cranking it out as much as possible and then revising later. So
I wonder too if there's something. Oh, go ahead, Aaron.
I just think it's another way of gatekeeping, like who's
It
a real
is.
author and
Yeah,
who's
yeah,
not, and it's just it's
Well,
it's nonsense.
trash.
I remember my second thing now. I
Everyone
find
shut
it
up.
much
Andrew
more.
remembered his second thing.
Everybody shut. It's. I find it. So we read the book Aragon for Overdue, like relatively recently, like within the last like year or so, and I find it way more obnoxious when people are playing with tropes and like genre things and like not admitting that they're basically writing fanfic, not admitting that they're like chopping and screwing all these different things and like putting them together.
Yeah.
Because the author of Aragon is like, well, do we make fun of James Joyce for reworking the Odyssey? And it's like, shut up, dude. Like, just you could just say that you got stuff from Star Wars. Like, it's fine.
Yeah.
But I think the reason people do that is
wrote that book too.
But
of course, it was Star Wars.
Yeah, it's I think it's healthier to admit that you are using other things as your like foundational like building block and then working up from there. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we're just like inspiration has to come from somewhere.
Yeah.
And I don't think that admitting that is a bad thing.
Well, and it's interesting too in fan fiction, like you don't have to do the world building part of like writing in the same way. You're probably still doing some version of it, but you have.
I mean, I've read some fan fiction that is doing some world building.
Yeah, sorry. Fair enough. But it is like there's a foundation for you to already play on, right?
Yeah.
And this is an interesting case where it's like she's got a character relationship or, some character vibes that she's already inspired by.
Right.
And then she's also got all of her lived experience in academia. And so it's got this interesting, it is playing in an existing fictional or, environmental space in the same way that I think a lot of fan fiction writers are playing in someone else's kind of narrative space or world building
That's
space.
a really good point. Yeah.
Because I think the thing that I was also struck by in this book that's outside of the romance element of it, but is more specific to the academia stuff, is just all of the power dynamics that it dives into. And I think this is what you were talking about earlier, Melody, of just like the different ambitions of all the different characters and the ways some characters are leaning into the hierarchy and the way some of them are able to avoid it. And a lot of that mirrors how some of the relationship stuff works, but it's not always one-to-one, and it's not everything trying to be grafted into a neat little box.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it informs the way that people navigate interpersonal relationships. Like, I really liked that in the starting scene, she sort of played with that myth that men like can't be sexually assaulted, and managed to do it in a pretty funny, lighthearted way.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Should we get into the book?
Should we get into the
I
book?
think we should. It sounds like we are.
I know, right? It's really
It's
exciting.
And y'all had not read this before coming in?
No, I hadn't read it.
Cool. Awesome.
No, I haven't.
We were going to read it anyway, and we thought this might be a good one to do with you guys.
Sure. And is anyone on this call like a biologist?
No.
Or a scientist?
Unfortunately, no.
No, I am
super am not.
unfortunately a lawyer.
No.
You could be like
Just check,
a biology lawyer.
Could be.
Yeah, you could be a science.
I'm sure
no,
that's okay.
I'm very much not. We've said many times. Well, it's honestly kind of funny because we've said many times on our show that we are not scientists, but then we did make our goal to become scientists in 2022, which is kind of an in joke,
which we've pretty much already done. So
so we are like kind of like scientists,
like biologist adjacent.
Yeah, but
like I could talk
we're still
about
learning
mitosis and osmosis.
Mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. I know that.
Photogenesis. That can't be right.
Photosynthesis.
Photosynthesis.
Kinesis.
Yeah,
we're scientists. Sorry. Yeah, we are. We are scientists.
Photogenesis is when you take pictures of a Sega console.
Yes.
Or the band
That's correct.
Genesis.
Or the band Genesis. These are all good jokes. So
all right. So
this book starts with a smooch. Starts with a bang.
It does. It starts off with a super, super awkward, terrible smooch. because
No, wait, no, it starts with that prologue. What
Oh
are you
yeah, it
guys
starts
talking
the
about?
Thank you,
prologue.
Aaron.
oh,
Never
I'm
mind.
sorry, Aaron. You're right.
Chapter
right.
1 starts with
Thank
a
God.
smooch.
Sorry.
Jeez.
I have to
You're-
do everything around here.
You
It starts with the
do.
prologue. And like she's got her she kept this girl's just such a hot
Listen.
fucking mess. Like,
Yeah.
okay. She's kept her contacts in too long, and now she's just like blind, I guess.
She's
for
putting in
her.
expired contacts because
Yeah.
she's
Right,
a
that's what
poor,
it is.
going to be grad student or is a grad student is going to go in.
Going to be.
She's
This
a
is in the
grad,
prologue.
like her
She's a
interview.
master's, and now she's thinking about PhD.
Yeah, I think she's like digging deeper down the grad student
Mhm.
hole.
Yeah.
So
No,
she's
one of those like very, very smart books wise and like dumb as a post, real life wise.
Mhm.
And one of those things is that she wears expired contacts and like I think it's supposed to be a joke, but I was definitely like, well, because she says like, oh, they're only expired by like a couple of years, I think. That's fine.
and like so she just like ducks into this bathroom that is the hero's bathroom. She can't see him due to expired contacts and the fact that she's like crying and using the eye wash. And they have this kind of conversation about like why she wants to be a scientist. And he like encourages her to do better on her interview. And she can only see him as like a dark, like Kylo Ren shaped blob.
Big,
But like
tall,
That
deep
sort of darkly
voice.
handsome blur.
yeah, like a
Yeah.
very like a hair deep voice sort of person. And then like
And she's convinced he's a grad student,
Mhm.
Yeah.
and
sure,
he does
for
not.
no reason whatsoever.
Yeah, and he doesn't.
Even though he says things like "my lab."
Right. Right.
Oh.
He
But
like
I
didn't
just
give
kept being
her a
like-
business card
Yeah.
during this interaction, so I guess she has
No.
plausible deniability.
For like a while, not as long as she doesn't realize it, but like a
Correct.
little bit. But like I just kept thinking, no matter how much encouragement and pep talk this man gives you, like still you can't see and you can't stop crying. Like how well could that interview have possibly gone?
Yeah.
Like
Mhm.
she doesn't fix the problem before the end of the I want to know what happened, but we never
know.
do. We just
No.
launch
I know.
right into this smooch.
But all we find out is that she's like, I don't know if I really want to go into PhD. Like it's starting to be like diminishing returns maybe. And he says, well, what's your reason? And finally she comes to like, I have a question that's really, really important to me, and I don't trust anybody else to do it right. And,
And she just wants to
Discover.
cure cancer.
discover the life-changing knowledge, or life-saving, I should say. And he's like, that's the best
It's
answer.
the best reason.
Oh, get it.
Go get him. Be a scientist.
Yeah.
And she's like, I am going to be a scientist.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. She's crying and crying.
And I
She
just
is
don't
not
get it.
going to do contact science. I'll tell you
No.
that much.
No.
She's not
No.
going to study the eye.
No,
She
not
probably
eyeball
should.
science.
Okay. So
All right, now we're in the
chapter one.
smooch.
And
Yeah.
we've
All right, so
yada
yes, now we're
yada
at chapter 1.
2 years and 11 months or
It's
something.
a long
Yep.
time.
Yep. 2 years and 11 months.
I
And she
should go
still
back-
hasn't figured out who the tallest, darkest man with the deepest voice.
voiciest.
Who's like, wouldn't you remember which laboratory's bathroom you stumbled into that day? Like, this
She
man made
was
such an
blind,
impact on
Aaron.
her.
And it's really sort of comical how far into their fake dating relationship that
Right.
they get before she realizes that
Oh, yeah.
it might maybe have been him who
It
set
might
her life
maybe have
on its
been.
current course. Yeah.
And then she needs another person to confirm that it was
Uh-huh.
probably him, which
Mhm.
rules.
Yeah.
Just
It's
the
so
hottest
funny.
dummies money can buy.
It's
Just
so
so
good.
hot.
They're
and
very
Also,
hot
like,
and dumb.
She's
yeah.
got two really good friends. So, we're talking about the main character, Olive.
Yep.
She's got two really good friends, An and Malcolm. And they don't. Has she ever told them this story of the mystery man?
No.
Like, I feel like
Must not have.
maybe this would have come up in their friendship of when you're like, why did you come here? Why are you putting yourself through this with the rest of us? And maybe
Why do
she'd
you
be
have
like,
ulcers on your retinas? Like,
Yeah,
just
my
eyes
normal
were-
questions.
my eyes were really broken, but a guy spoke to me, and now I'm here.
We're broken. The man spoke to me.
There's one thing in this book that Olive is consistently bad at, and it's ever telling the truth ever in any circumstances, no matter how low the stakes are.
Or
So
even
it's like,
having
maybe
a
she
good
just
reason
lied.
to lie. Right. No matter how low the stakes are. That's the thing that's nuts to me. It's like, why? Why are we still lying? It makes no sense.
It's true. Or not taking the most circuitous route she possibly can.
Yeah.
Like she
Mhm.
could have just been like, my date got canceled and that's why I'm at the lab. But I was on date tomorrow. Could have done that. But instead she decides to launch her lips at a big man. And so she kisses him and it's like this weird peck situation. And he hesitates and then he does put his hands around her like rib cage ? And then she
Just
pulls
one
back.
hand all the way around her teeny tiny rib cage.
Beefy
Just-
hand.
Yeah.
Teeny tiny
Because
rib
he's like a
cage.
big, like golem
and
sort
remember,
of man.
she's like 5'8", and
Yeah.
he's big.
Yo,
That's what
so
she says
skinny.
at one point.
I
Yeah.
know.
Her
I know.
stomach
but
is so concave. She's so nervous about
like
how he's going to feel
embarrassing.
about her ribs that jet out because
Oh.
it's so
she
embarrassing.
eats like
for
Lorelai
her.
Gilmore. Like she eats a lot, and it's all junk food. Like I'm not, but sure. I'll just
Yeah,
file
even
that
so she
into
like
the
casually
trope pile, I
mentions
guess.
how many marathons she runs a year. Like every once in a while, she's just like, so many marathons though, reader. Like that's how it
Say
is,
no.
how it happened.
Yeah, but like doesn't have time to actually listen. It doesn't matter. So she is like, okay, well, and like tries to walk away, and he's like, "Hi, did you just kiss me?" And she's like, "I mean, I'm gonna try it." Nope, no, I didn't.
Yeah. She's just like, jump right to gaslight. What if I say no?
Mhm.
What are you going to do about it?
I would have done the same thing. I love that. But also
It was
like
like you throwing the blueberry muffin down the hall.
But like she launches herself at this guy because her friend's coming and she's supposed to be on this date, and then it's not until after she pulls back from this smooch that she's like, "Oh my god, it's that professor who's like
It's the
mean."
professor,
You
who's
know,
such
the
a
one
jerk,
who's like
yeah.
6'5" and huge and like looks like the guy
Hot.
that I just smooched. And it's like,
Mhm.
how long can we like pretend to not see people in front of us? Like the whole prologue and like the whole like the decision point to smooch during the smooch, like and now she knows who he is.
Known
Yeah.
as Adam Carson.
Yes,
Carlson.
Carson. And he's
Carlson.
like, he's the wunderkind of biology, and he has all of the science grants, and he has the biggest, nicest lab, and he's
And the biggest, nicest chest.
the
too.
famousest.
He has
Yes.
the biggest, nicest a lot of things.
A lot of things.
But yeah, you might know. I think his first name is the most visible artifact of the Raylo like origin thing, is because his name is the same first name as the name of the guy who plays Kylo
As
Ren
Adam
in the
Driver,
Star Wars
yeah.
movies. Yeah,
Yeah.
mhm.
And every physical description of him is just
Yeah.
what if
Yeah.
Adam Driver
Yeah.
but bigger?
But
Yeah.
bigger
Well, I mean,
and, like,
at one
maybe
point, it's even
handsomer.
like even like, oh, his nose is a little strange, but he's super handsome anyway, and it doesn't
Yeah.
make sense, but it just is true.
I never noticed how strange and hot his strange hot nose was. That was really awesome.
Truly. Okay, so he's like, you need to explain to me what just happened. And she's like, I really don't think it's like necessary at all.
Mhm.
And so he says, all right, great. Then I'm going to just go to my office and start on my Title IX complaint. And she's like, what are you talking about? And he's like, you kissed me without getting my consent. That's a big sexual harass.
And then she tries
anywhere.
to gaslight him into saying that, like, he said yes. She's like,
Yeah.
I asked you, and you said yes. And he's like, I didn't. She's like, you did, though. You said yes.
I know. So by the end of this conversation, she does come around and she's like, oh my God, I read all of the signals wrong and I wasn't even thinking about your signals. And I was so like, yes, please make a Title IX complaint against me. I super deserve it. And oh my God,
That's
I'm so
what
sorry.
in my profession we call a confession.
Yeah.
And you're not supposed to do
To
that.
a legal
legally.
thing. Yeah.
You know,
Do that.
biology law, we call that a confession.
We do.
But so Olive she's done this because she's decided this is easier than telling her friend to
Oh my God.
date her ex-boyfriend who she didn't even like that much.
Yeah. They
Yeah.
went on like 3 dates
Mhm.
and then he
There's no
met
chemistry
her
or
BFF.
biology or any of the different kinds of science.
That's the
honestly.
one.
No geometry.
No.
No physics.
No
There's barely
algebra.
any physics even.
Mhm.
Jeez.
No, it's so nuts because like Mel said, she had told this girl that she was on a date to make her think that, she was over this other guy. She could have just said, "Oh, my date was canceled. Tomorrow's my date." She could have also just talked to her friend and been like,
Right.
"Hey, I really noticed you like him. Like, I'm over him. Never was really into him in the first place. Please go for it."
Also, like, I
That
don't
never
really
even
want-
occurs to her to do.
Yeah. Yeah, never. She would rather lie to her best friend, for months.
For months and months and months.
Months.
And like maybe she's doing this because she's such good best friends with On that she knows that she would never actually accept that, like, oh, I'm over him and I was never that into him.
That's what she said. Yeah, she gives On a lot of credit. Perhaps too much of the wrong type of credit.
That's
Right, but like, isn't that On's problem at some point? Like,
A little bit.
A little.
I'm sorry.
A
Like,
little.
I've told you what to do. You didn't do it. Like, sorry, you didn't get that.
And I think there's also
Good
like
stuff.
she's also got a lot of low self-esteem, self-doubty trope, characteristics. And that's not to diminish somebody who feels that way. It's just like it is a thing that makes this story work and a thing that advances many parts of the plot, or that she doesn't think she is capable of something or worth something happening. And so she would, rather than face it directly, she will find 5 different lies and pick the worst one with the least consideration.
Uh-huh.
And also it's all driven by this fear of losing people that are important to her because she has no family. Her mom passed away from cancer when she was like 15. And then she moved to the States away from Canada. And so like now she's got 2 or 3 important people in her life. And if she were to ever upset any of them, maybe they would get cancer, I think is like what she
It's exactly
feels.
what it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, really. And also, like one of the things that this book heavily relies on is her always having that country song running in the back of her head, like, she don't know she's beautiful, never crossed her mind. That one. Oh no, she's not that kind. Like, really, she has no idea she's smart. She has no idea she's super pretty. She has no idea about anything.
Well, and she wears contacts, so she can't even take her glasses off and have everybody around her realize that she was beautiful the whole time. So like, I don't know how that's supposed to work, but it is I think this is one, like, Olive's character is one really smart way that the book uses its background, which is like STEM academia. There's no, my understanding from my women friends who are in this field is there is no place on earth to develop more self-doubt than there is to be a woman in STEM. Like, it is just going to happen. And then this is something she struggles with personally. It's something she struggles with professionally. And it's extremely believable the whole time, no matter how much other parts of the book are sort of stretching everybody's like imagination and patience. So yeah.
Completely. And one of the things I really loved about just the overall dynamic is what a foil On is to Olive, because she has sort of she's taken the other end of the spectrum where she's like, no, I'm going to be the fiercest. I'm going to be the most like supportive of other women, other BIPOC women in STEM. And I really liked that even though they had so much interaction and you could tell that their relationship was like very lived in, that like it didn't change their core personalities.
Sure.
I don't know.
Yeah. I also appreciated too that we don't get a lot of time with Olive's advisor, who is also a woman.
Yes.
But we get the sense that like, while she's a very supportive advisor in terms of supporting Olive's work, at least from Olive's perspective, she's not also getting the emotional support she needs or the like social resources, or Olive hasn't asked for them the right way. So there's what you're saying, Andrew, is like they feel disconnected, even though they probably could have more kinship as advisor and advisee. And each of their experience of it is unique enough, like On included, in this miasma of misogyny and nonsense.
Misogyny. Look at that.
Yeah.
It's a scientific word. I don't know if
Coming down with all the good stuff here.
So she's made out with this guy in the hallway, and then it's for the benefit of On.
Mhm.
And then like the next day when she's like, "Hey, were you messing around with Professor Carlson in the hallway at 11 p.m. in the biology lab?" Like for some reason, Olive's like, "You saw? Like how did you know? How did you know it was him? Did you look at him with your functioning eyeballs? Oh no! Like now this rumor is out there." And On has told her friend Malcolm, who has now told the entire school, and now it's like a whole thing.
Oh, Adam walks up too, and he plays along.
Well,
He's like, "Wasn't that neat?"
Yeah.
Right. So she's
Yeah.
like
Puts his hand
about
in
to
the
like try to
exact
make
right
up a
spot.
lie. Yeah, and he.
Oh, you're right, Aaron. Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, he can
Yeah.
tell that she's like flailing. And so, because I feel
She's
like that's
probably
just like her
physically
normal state.
flailing.
Really? And so-
I think she has Muppet arms. Yeah.
Oh, truly. So he
100%.
walks up to her and he puts his hand on the small of her back, and it's very warm, listener. Okay.
Mhm.
Large,
And then
warm.
It's just a
large,
big
warm,
warm
Standard.
slab of hand.
grounding, you know.
Mhm.
And then he looks and he very intimately says, "Is everything okay?"
Yeah.
And then On is like, "Oh, I'm leaving now. Bye." And then she fucks off, and it's very believable. And now they're dating to the entirety of the science community at Stanford.
Yeah, across the coast to coast,
Oh,
everyone finds
Harvard
out.
knows
Everybody
about it, too.
knows. Yeah.
Yeah, because
Mhm.
he's so famous.
Yeah,
Mhm.
And he has no idea either.
it's true. He doesn't understand this.
He's
really.
one of the
he
greatest,
doesn't
hottest
know he's
scientists of his
beautiful.
generation. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so she finds out that everybody thinks they're dating. And so she goes over to his lab and she's like, "Dr. Carlson, can I please speak with you?" And meanwhile, they have not spoken in 2 years and 11 months. Like she talks about seeing him in the hallway or like across the quad or whatever, but never actually interacting with him. And he's just like, "Yup." And they go into a conference room. He's like, "Yeah, let me just put down all of my beakers. I don't give a shit about these slides. Let's just go into this conference room." And so he's just juggling beakers over
That's
there. He's
what
gotta put 'em
scientists like.
down.
I've got my
No,
beakers.
I
I got
know.
my Bunsen burners. Like I
He's
got
just
my
using
my
the
blue
force
fluid.
to carry 5 beakers around the whole
True.
time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
I mean, yeah. One's got to assume that Olive she's got separation anxiety because her parents left her on the desert planet of Jakku.
Well, that's why we had the orphan story. She couldn't just write that into a contemporary romance. So we had to have pancreatic
We
cancer
haven't,
instead.
we haven't discovered Jakku yet, so it can't be in the book.
Oh my god.
Wait. So I have a couple things to say. First of all, how little she has interacted with this man since bathroom day in the
Yes.
prologue
2 years and 11 months ago. Yeah.
That's
2
the
years
one.
and 11 months ago.
The most
Just-
famous man on campus.
Yeah.
Just
The most famous
underscores
science man.
how creepy his infatuation is at the end of this book, that he like knows all these things about her and stuff, and he like talks about her to all of his friends about like how much he likes her and has had a crush on a grad student for like so long, and like he's only ever seen her from like across the quad, like
But
like
also,
just like weird stares.
doesn't
and then-
talk to her ever.
Yeah.
Why?
2 years and 11 months is a long time for all
really
this to be
long
going
time.
on. It's
And
a
like
really
I know
long
they're
time.
very busy science people, barely
Yeah.
sleep, doing science all the time. And when they're not doing science, they're writing grants. I get
Mhm.
it. But
Yeah.
like you
their
could
beakers
nod
and-
at her when
Mhm.
you're in the break room together.
Mm-hmm.
At
And
the
the
very
other thing is, she notes that after people start realizing or thinking that she's dating Dr. Carlson, that like they start like giving her the choice beakers and like letting
Yes.
her be in like the better spot in the lab and not like
Yeah.
stealing her pipettes and stuff.
They
So
don't
like
Everybody's
have
later
to
on,
measure
her,
for
yeah.
the electron microscope.
yeah, and like then later on when she's like kind of accused of sleeping with this guy to get like a better leg up in the
Yeah.
floor.
Yeah.
And she's like, "How dare you? I would never do that." Like that
Mhm.
is part of her consideration when she starts fake dating him. She's like,
yeah.
"I will get better access to the electron."
Everybody's
microscope."
like a little bit afraid of me now. So that's
yeah,
kind of
she
nice.
like loves that shit. I'm
And
like,
she
"Look at
she
me."
didn't do it for that, but she has less than zero problem with it once it starts
Exactly.
happening.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
She's like huge net benefit for
It's not
for
a part
that.
of the consideration when she makes the decision.
Yeah.
So what comes first? Does she enter into her fake relationship contract with him and then tell her friend Malcolm about it? Like, or has she
Yes.
talked to?
Yes.
Okay,
so she goes to the conference room and
Yeah.
she's like, big problem. Everybody thinks we're dating. And he's like, I mean, I'm fine with that. We could let him keep thinking that. And she's like, what? You're supposed to like go berserk and tell everybody to go fuck themselves. And he's like, I mean, I don't really date anyway. So, and so she's like, wow, okay, I'm going to have to think about it. And then I think she has that conversation with Malcolm. And then
we
goes back into
learn.
his office. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Because when
We learn
he
that-
decides to also fake date her, we learn that his reasoning for it is that Stanford has frozen his dollar bills
Yes.
because they think that he might go to Harvard
Or somewhere.
and take their dollar bills, which are more,
and
or
their
somewhere else.
prestige.
And the prestige too.
right.
This feels just like when we asked you to explain werewolf mechanics in the last.
And like that was easier.
Tell me about his funding.
And that was more easy for me. Okay, so because there's like more dollars elsewhere, they think he's going to go elsewhere, really based on nothing except for collaborations. And they think that if he settles down and has roots in Stanford, that will make him stay. So he thinks
local P.
Yeah,
he's putting down roots.
Yeah, he thinks that if they think that he's fucking a grad student, that's going to help.
Yeah.
And then they will give him more money. I just don't think that's.
We've got all of these like IP address logs that show you being in Boston a lot, but you are seeing a grad student.
Yeah.
So here's
We
your millions of
love
dollars.
this sexual relationship between you and a student at our school. Like that is our favorite thing.
You're technically not breaking any rules. It's fine.
I'm sure that there has never been a faculty student thing that has caused problems at this
never blown up.
I'm sure
Never.
that everyone on the advisory board is like, this can only be good stuff. Thumbs up. No peer review needed.
Yeah. Wipe her immediately. Yes.
I guess there's a couple things here that like the specifics of it are like unhinged, but the overall, like
both of them are slightly unhinged.
Yeah,
they are a little bit, yeah. And he's just more like quiet about it, and so it seems less so.
He's just got this like big deal grant with his buddy Tom Benton from Boston.
Yeah, Tommy Tom.
Ooh, Mr. B.
So I think that's like the lure away to Boston that Stanford's worried about because it's this big deal thing.
Yeah.
But I also know I have a relative who got a job at a college recently, and like they give some very preferential bank loans to professors who are buying houses in the area. I think there's like weird little stuff like that where they do want you, if you're going to be tenure track, you know, they want you to put down roots, and they're going to invest in you, and then they don't have to actually listen to you because they're, you know, paying you enough to stay.
Correct.
Well, I know that there's some consideration going, like if one person starts working at a particular university, like there is consideration given to like getting their partner a job or you know like other things that give them incentive to stick around.
And if he's at Stanford, there's, you know, he's a MacArthur winner. They talk about that. He's a genius.
Yeah, he's a genius.
That's going to attract the next generation, the best and the brightest to Stanford, of course, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, he's like, listen, you need to fake date me until September 29th. When
they release
the fall
those funds.
budgeting process is over, which makes no sense.
You need to
That's
date
not
me till
when
the
budgets
end
happen.
of
It's
the
not how
fiscal
budgets
year.
work.
September 29th.
Like to what Craig said about like giving preferential stuff to people who like have houses, like he mentions that he's like,
He's a
I'm
renter.
renting right now.
Buy a house, Adam.
I would
buy a
have
house,
to buy a
dude.
fucking house. I'm like, buy a house, man.
Your
You're
parents
a
were
professional man
diplomats.
in the world who's very rich.
What the
Why
fuck?
are you renting? That's a red flag, sir.
Yeah.
Like, buy a house.
No, for real. Like,
Don't fake date a grad
that's a
student.
good
Yeah, and then
investment.
even if
It's a bad plan.
Even if you do go to Boston, like you could still Airbnb it or whatever. Like real
you
estate,
can
is
rent
a
that
smart
shit to
investment.
college
Just do
kids.
it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Anyway,
So-
all right, okay, moving on.
Sorry.
We've
So
got to
she
cook
comes in-
here.
She's we do.
Yes.
We gotta go. So
Mhm.
she comes in, she's like, listen, I will fake date you, but here are the rules. We keep it on campus. We only see each other once a week for 10 minutes and no sex.
No sex.
And he's like, and he like shuts down completely. he's like beep boop bopping. He does not
He
non-computing.
has to do a hard reboot. Yeah.
He does,
Yeah.
yeah. And she's like,
Hard
oh my
reboot is the
gosh.
right way to say it. I think
Yeah.
we're like I think we can be pretty. This is a neurodivergent hero. Like
It
this
is.
guy is definitely
Yes.
on the autism spectrum. I think.
Mhm.
Like I think he is.
Yeah.
They
I mean,
both
it's not
talk about-
overtly said.
They both talk
I hate to
broadly
armchair
about social
diagnose
cue
anybody,
stuff.
but
Right.
sure.
Yeah. And he has a hard time when she throws him curveballs like this, for sure. Like she's like,
Yes.
no sex. And he's like, I wasn't even thinking about sex. Like, don't.
Right.
Oh my God.
In her inner monologue, she's like, oh, of course, you would never want to have sex with this. This
Me,
absolute
this is a
detestable
slag heap of a body that I'm walking around in.
Yeah. And so that's hard for him because he's like, no, I've wanted to do you for a really long time. But
Yeah.
he can't say that out loud. Okay,
No.
so they agree that every Wednesday they're going to meet up at the coffee shop for 10 minutes so that people can see them in the wild doing
Yep.
social things. Maybe
like a month,
talking
yeah.
at each other's faces the tiniest bit.
Yeah.
And
then
so
just-
the other thing is that Tom Benton is coming into town to like see his quote unquote collaborator, but it's very cloak and dagger for a little while. And he is interested in helping her move her experiment along faster
Yeah.
because her advisor isn't doing money stuff very well.
Her
She's not-
advisor is, and it's it's one of the main things that we learn about this character. Her advisor is retiring in like a couple of years, so she's basically checked out.
Yeah.
And her lab's not very well funded anymore because she doesn't have a lot invested in like the long-term stuff that you need to be invested in to get science done. So
Right.
Olive's like, I have very promising research. I think it's innovative and unique, and I just need money and resources to get it off the ground. And Tommy
So
Tom
she's
is the
lab
one
shopping,
who's
basically.
Yeah.
She emailed every professor in the country with a good lab
Right.
and was like, hey, can I come over for a
Yeah.
year?
Yeah.
And
and
Tom's
it's
the only
very
one that
cute.
got back to her, and she doesn't know that that's Adam's collaborator. But
Yes.
we'll soon find out.
It's a lack of preparation before any major interview that she does.
Yep.
It takes her till the night before to look up a picture of this guy. There's like later
Oh,
she's on
yeah.
a panel with him and she didn't even realize that she's on a panel with him. Like,
Yeah.
have you ever been on a panel?
She wasn't going to go to his talk. Like she's going
Right.
to interview with him. Like the interview
didn't know
she
he
did
was
with
doing
him.
a talk at
Right.
college.
Yeah.
And it
yeah.
got bumped up to be like, how about let's do it right now? Because we're all at the coffee shop. So basically, like, he's going to come interview her. Then, like, they're doing their coffee day, and then he's there. And so he's like, why don't I interview you right now? Because you're my friend's girlfriend. And, like,
Yeah.
that got bumped up. And then he's like, are you going to go to my talk tomorrow? And she's like, fuck, a talk? Like, I didn't even know about that. So that talk would have been before her already scheduled interview.
Oh,
So if she had
interesting.
kept the actual interview, he would have been like, how
Did
did you
you
like
go
the
to my
talk
talk?
yesterday? And she
Yeah.
would have been like, duh, I don't know.
Yeah.
No, she
Come
would
on,
have come
Olive.
up with the most elaborate possible lie.
Yeah, you're
about-
right.
She
She's
would have
my
said,
gosh.
like,
Like,
I
oh my
was
gosh,
skiing
there was a
and I
giraffe in
fell
the
out of
road,
plane.
and like
Mhm.
that
And,
giraffe
like
is
here's
my
here's like a
boyfriend.
here's a notarized receipt from the Staples that I was at, like buying supplies.
And oh my god, I forgot my pajamas.
Also, I
she's
can't
forgetting
see
her
right now.
pajamas.
Yeah.
But after this conversation where they lay the ground rules, no sex, like this is a fake relationship, we see each other for 10 minutes. Every time they interact after that just has like full like bound chicka wow wow, like
Yes,
it is
it's
like
hot.
sexy hot music. Like, why don't here's a contrivance where you have to rub sunscreen on my shirtless
Yeah.
chest. Here's just like I'm just like pushing a car for some
Oh,
reason,
he's
and
gotta
you notice how
push
good and
that
big my
car
muscles
up.
are.
When he
Hell.
puts that car.
Oh, when they're
Sweaty,
at Tom,
Adam?
when they're at Tom's surprisingly boring talk, that's like the entirety of Woodstock showed up to attend.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
well, he's known as one of science's biggest hotties.
Yes,
He is. He's
so many
he's a
people
science
are
daddy.
there. Now, what I do like about these three scenes, the sunscreen scene,
Mhm.
the your science daddy pushed a car, you need to go kiss him in the street,
Yes.
Yeah.
and the please sit on his lap while Tom talks boringly.
Yeah,
All
yeah.
of those are like nudges from On,
Yes.
who is like, well, you said you're dating the known ass weirdo. I guess just like date him already.
I'm gonna need some PDA. Okay, I'm gonna need it.
I was
I'm gonna
convinced.
squirt all of this sunscreen all over you so that you will go rub it on that hot man playing frisbee who you have said is yours.
I was convinced the whole time that An knew it was fake dating,
Mm.
but thought
Yeah.
that Olive liked Adam, so was trying to do her friend thing by like she knew that she couldn't tell
That's
her
interesting.
because if she told her, then she would know, you know, like that whole web.
Yeah.
But then was like, I can tell she likes him, so I'm going to be like, why aren't you sitting on his lap?
Mm-hmm.
You know, like that kind of thing. But that didn't end up being the
That's
case.
not-
She's just
no,
a
that's
weird
not the
friend.
case.
It's
Apparently
like,
Olive
it's your
is-
boyfriend.
Yeah. Really?
Yes.
Okay. So wait. So they go and they do. So they have the impromptu interview, and
Yes.
one of the things I really, really liked about this is that when Tom is like, "So what's cool about your project?" and she like fizzles out in her whole brain,
Yeah.
it's really nice because Adam then is like, "What kind of question is that? Like,
You're
how do you
right.
expect her to answer this question?" And so he looks at her and he's like, "Why don't you talk about what your thing is targeting and what gaps in the literature it fills and what you think the problems will be and la 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 la." And so she's sitting there going, "Oh my gosh, Adam doesn't know this, but he really did me a solid because he helped me organize all of my thoughts
Mhm.
so I can nail this interview."
Uh-huh.
And you know, throughout the whole thing that he's doing all of these things very intentionally, not
Mhm.
pushing
Yeah.
the car. Okay. All right. That was just,
What
That was
had to
just
do
was
that.
that?
Sometimes you just gotta
Okay,
push a
but-
car. Sometimes you have to push a car.
I didn't even
Okay.
understand the traffic that was happening. I was kind of confused.
no, don't understand the traffic. I don't understand how pushing it like into the next parking space would make that much sweat. Wow. That was a lot of sweat,
Well,
you guys.
he's pushing a car.
And I'm a sweater.
He's a big hulking, like 10-foot tall man, but
All I could
The
think
boys
about was like
never
Edward
push
stopping the
cars. I don't understand.
I've pushed
Like, not-
cars.
Never.
I figured it would be like he would know how jumper cables worked, and like I would find that attractive in a man.
Yeah,
because
sure.
I have to Google it. Like I don't just know. And I
Right.
thought that he would just know, and she'd be like, "Oh, like, he's such a manly man." And instead, he lifts the car up over his head and like puts it in a different parking spot.
I would find if jumper cables were like available and instead a man lifted a car above his head
Oh.
and then just moved it to the next
Find it
spot, I
tiresome.
would find that to be unattractive. I
Yes.
would be like, this is, you don't have critical thinking.
I would be like,
skills.
this
a little
is not about
show-offy,
you.
yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, now they go to Tom Benton's talk. And this is where An is like, there are so many people here because he's a science hottie. Please sit on your boyfriend's lap. I would do it, but he's not my boyfriend. He's your boyfriend.
Yeah, yeah.
Which like weird flex on. And so then she like looks at him and he's like, he does his one curt nod that he does so often in the book. And so she sits down in his lap. And one of the things I really liked about this is just, I felt like it was one encapsulation of how slowly comfortable she's getting with him.
Oh
Sure.
yeah.
You know?
There's a lot of chatter of the two of them kind of like mocking the talk, of just like talking about the room. Once they actually develop a vocabulary with each other, it is very charming, and it's clear that they
Yeah.
are both very comfortable with it. It's just all predicated on some lies that they're telling each other and
teetering
everyone.
Jenga tower of lies. Yes.
It's true. So then they go outside and Adam is pushing that car and An is like, go kiss your boyfriend. So she goes over and she's like, we have
Such
to
a
kiss
weird thing
now
to say.
because An is looking. And he's like, she is looking. She's still looking at us. We better kiss. And they do, but it's like better than the first one because it is consenting on both sides and everybody's ready for it.
Mhm.
Because it's not a surprise. Can you like she doesn't have the thought, is he married, until like chapter 3.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
I just want to throw that out there.
Yes.
Anyway, yeah, consenting,
Also, why
both
wouldn't
sides,
she
good
know
kiss.
that if he's the most famous science hottie in the land, right?
No one
I
likes
feel
him. He's a jerk. Who
everybody-
cares if he's married?
Him,
He's a
he's
jerk.
so dark and mysterious. It's like
Yeah.
he is a jerk, but he's otherwise
unknowable.
totally unknowable.
Okay,
Yes.
all right, fair. All right, so what happens next? Is it picnic next?
I guess it's
so
picnic.
they've
Sunscreen
talked
picnic?
about They've talked about the stakes of the science picnic, which feels like a Flintstones Moose Lodge episode.
Yes.
Where we've
It's like
got
your boss
Nice
is coming over to
reference, Craig.
dinner and you have
Yes.
Nice
like-
reference, Greg.
we have to be publicly in
My
a
heart.
relationship.
It's just like Craig knows every way to just like speak deeply to me all the time. Like
wow.
first with The Happening and now.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Anyway, before the picnic, this is important. Before the picnic, they have that
Yes.
fight though, because he shoots down somebody else's like
Greg.
Science.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
Greg's
Greg.
science project.
his dissertation proposal.
Sure.
He's
So
like,
he does
"Your
shoot that down, and he's
processes are
like,
stupid.
it's
Fix
bad.
them."
Get a new scientific
Idea.
method for it. And so then he's like, stop it with that and do another thing instead. And Greg's like, oh no, if I start over, I'm not going to graduate in time. And then my wife is going to like not live where I live or whatever. And like, it's a big deal. And she's like, you're mean all the time to everybody.
She tells
on
him
text.
that he is unapproachable and
Antagonistic.
antagonistic.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she's
And then
like,
she
don't
says,
you think you
"Fuck
could
you,
say
Adam."
things a little bit more nicely? And he's like, no, that's not my job. My job is not to coddle these people. My job is to tell them whether or not the science they're doing is legit. And if it's not, they should do science better. I don't care where your wife is living. You should have done it right the first time, Greg. And she's like, well, fuck you then, Adam. And then he does like the 3 dots appear and then like no response for a
Oof.
couple of days.
Oof.
Yeah.
Oof. This is my biggest problem with his characterization earlier in the book. And he gets into it even more like later on when they're in the hotel room together. But he is described over and over again as this famous ass who's like a horrible person and everybody hates him and he's a total nightmare. And like maybe it's just because he has been crushing on her for 2 years and 11 months.
Yeah. Mhm.
But he is never anything less than like super courteous and thoughtful, and even
He's not even like overbearing with her.
no,
or
the,
anything.
he's
No.
like, he's super nice. Even the like the reasons why his students hate him, I was actually like, yeah, I'm Team Adam on this one. Like, you should
Yes.
just do better
Hard
work.
same.
You
Hard
should just
same.
be able to take criticism.
Yeah.
Yes.
But like things that about her that you would think that would annoy him, where she's just like wildly inefficient and like very flighty and like never knows where her shit is. Like one time when
Just
she had
endless
to
lies.
dig in her
Yeah.
jeans for her, like her dirty jeans on the floor for her cell phone, that like
Mhm.
gave me anxiety. Like that
Oh.
could have been in the washer immediately. Like just so many of those things that I feel like
Whoa.
Adam would be
told
like,
you-
get your shit together.
Have I
That
told
like
you
he
how
didn't
many
care about when it
times
was her. I
I've
don't.
washed my AirPods, Erin.
Yeah, that sounds
Have
right.
I told you about that?
No, that sounds
it's
accurate.
like 6. It's like
Right,
6.
yeah.
Again, relatable content over here.
Sure, but I just feel like Adam would be more annoyed by that, given
Sure. Michael,
how he
certainly
is with others.
tell you
But
that
maybe that's what love is. I don't know.
Yes,
Here's a hypothesis. Maybe that's what love is.
Hypothesis.
that's right. Okay, so now they're going to go to this picnic, and she hasn't spoken to him in a couple of days.
Yeah.
But they're going to be people who date in front of everyone.
Yep.
Yes.
So On does this thing. I love On's obsession with sunscreen. It's very on point as far as her
Sure.
character is concerned.
Mhm.
Loved it. And she puts like a lake of sunscreen in her hand. And she's like, I bet you need to find a lot of surface area of skin and put it on it.
Well,
I
we
wonder
could
who has
find
the
the
most
largest
surface
chest.
area.
The
Oh my
largest,
gosh.
palest chest in the history of time.
Stop playing ultimate frisbee. Come over
Yeah.
here, big boy. They're
'Cause-
all shirtless.
It's Top Gun, but frisbee. Like he had so much anxiety about this picnic, but his buddy Tom Benton's in town, and he's
Oh,
like,
yeah.
time to rip off my shirt and throw
Yeah,
that
time to take
disc.
off shirt.
Like,
Get it
let's
cut
go.
loose.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the other
Good
thing.
word.
Like, it seems like
Camera
he
throw,
has,
my man. Let's go.
They say he has so much social anxiety all the time. Like they keep pressing this,
Yeah.
like
You
hard
don't
for
see
him
it.
to be around people, like exhaust him to be around people sort of stuff. But then like when he does get around people, he seems very at ease. Like,
yeah,
so,
because
you know,
like I have a lot of social anxiety, and you know what's not high up on the list of things that I'm gonna do in front of a bunch of strangers is
Taking
take my
off your
fucking
shirt
shirt
and
off.
running
Yeah,
around?
like, no thanks.
Is that
No
it?
thanks, everybody.
Not only
I also
that,
think this whole sequence says so much more about what On gets off on.
Yes.
than it does about
Agreed.
it.
Loving on.
Yeah.
Like a successful man ridden with social anxiety is not necessarily going to rip off his shirt and play ultimate frisbee. I would also think maybe he might not then just wander over to his grad student girlfriend and say, "Lather me up, baby,
wow,
let's
wow."
go."
Yeah,
Yeah,
Ready
could you
for
just-
it.
yeah.
Could you put the most sexually suggestive possible substance on my?
Hey,
Mhm.
the
On my
dean
chest
is
and back,
over
please.
there, and he needs to know that I mean business.
Oh, yeah,
Can you
I am
lube up my
serious.
back, please?
Yeah, I need my grant funding. So yeah, go nuts, baby.
Those my funds. Lube me up.
Boy, is this how
Okay.
decisions are made at Stanford? Are boards just sitting around being like?
California's a weird place.
I mean, I remember.
Okay.
Do you remember the sunscreen incident?
Man,
Jeez.
Okay.
they would never do it like this at Harvard.
Oh,
Yeah,
not
no
a-
wonder everybody's trying to get out and get to Harvard. Like, this is a weird way to have to like get to a situation where nobody's stealing your pipettes. Like,
It's true. Okay, so meanwhile, she has had 2 weeks to get a report together that's like all of her
For Tom,
for Tom to
Tom, yeah.
to impress him into giving her a bench in his lab in Harvard for a year. So she's been working overtime and he is making sure that he has like all of her experiment protocols and like everything she's ever done
he-
in science in her life.
and he
Yeah.
moved the goalpost too. Like it was
Yes.
supposed to be
He moves it
due
up.
like Monday, and he's like, "How about Saturday?"
Yeah.
and she's like, "Ooh." So
Yeah,
because she's a procrastinator.
right. And then does he go on a trip with Tom?
They go back
that
to
when you-
Boston for like
yeah.
a little bit
Yeah.
to do some stuff. I think it's
To do grant
what-
stuff.
and we
I think
learn
it's partly
later-
like his covert interview process, right?
we learn
Mhm.
later
Adams.
that is
Yeah.
the beginning of Adam's covert interview process at Harvard, which our good friend Holden Rodriguez later tells us.
He's never
Adam
even
Ol-
considered before.
Yes, Adam has never considered this before, but I bet it's because you might go there. Like,
Yeah, it is. Look,
Yeah.
like just listener, hey listener, he's had a crush on her for almost 3 years, and that's the
Yeah.
word. That's the reason.
From so far away.
From
From
such
so
a long
far
distance
away.
crush.
Just from that one time where her eyeballs hurt so bad she couldn't even focus on him. Like I don't think she looked pretty that day. Like
She was so red
and her
rimmed
like
eye.
shit wasn't
but she
together.
cared so much about science.
She cares so much about science because of her mom
Yeah. Oh,
and her dad,
during-
who left her on Jakku, and she needed to come up with a cure
Listen.
for being left alone on a desert
True.
planet.
If we could
Listen,
only
we've
early
talked
detect when
about-
we're gonna get left on Jakku, no one would get left on Jakku.
We've talked a lot on the show about the magnetic appeal of an adult orphan, and I think
Yes.
that could be the case. Like
Could be it.
this seems to be something that happens in romance a lot, where somebody's like an orphan.
Oh,
We
you
don't
guys
know.
have
We don't know what
some
that
issues?
is.
You don't have to meet any in-laws.
Fair.
You don't.
Yeah,
Like
true.
I think that's
You don't have to
part
have
of
that
it.
chapter.
You're just free from their attachments.
Wow. Yeah, vistas
got-
are opening up in front of me right,
Right.
now.
Yeah,
They've
I mean,
got
some
a
people
lot of
really like their
metaphorical
in-laws.
baggage.
Like some people's in-laws listen to Overdue, so like, I got no problem with my in-laws, but I can see like objectively.
No, my
why
in-laws
it
are
might
great.
Have some appeal.
Put it on the
yeah.
record. I've got no issues with my in-laws.
No, we all have fantastic
We have
in-laws.
great in-laws.
We can understand. Like, what if we would have all married a different person?
Oh,
Like,
God.
it could have been
Werewolf.
horrible.
I
Yeah.
know.
Mhm.
Yes,
but
exactly.
all of us have great in-laws.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
Glad
okay,
we put
so
that out there.
Oof, bases
Now-
covered. Whew, let's go.
doesn't he get back early from
He
his
does. He
trip?
comes back early. Yes.
And she gets
Mhm.
surprised by him, and she's very excited about it because
Mhm.
Yeah.
she's been a bit bereft without
Is
him
that the-
around.
Yeah.
Is
We've
that
been
before
texting a little bit because
Yeah.
phone
Is that
calls are
before
too
their
awkward.
kind of sweet late night lab scene that they have together where they chat in the lab when he comes back early, or is that before his trip?
Oh
They
yeah,
have,
because
I can't remember.
she's cranking on this paper that she's got to get to Tom early, and he's in the break room and he took her chips, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh my God, that scene
And this
was
is so-
good.
Earlier, when they had that impromptu interview where Tom asked her what was cool about her research, and Adam's like, "You're a fucking idiot. Don't ask
Right.
that question like that." And she doesn't quite get, like, she talks about how it's pancreatic cancer, but she doesn't quite talk about why. And it's obvious that it's related to some like tragedy in her past, but she doesn't want to get into it. And it's clear that she is not used to talking about it, like will go out of her way not to talk about it. And so she opens up to Adam, like, it was my mom. I lost her when I was a teenager to pancreatic cancer. And that's been like my driving force this whole time. And that's one way that the book signifies that things are getting serious, is like, here's a thing that obviously she doesn't like talking about, that she is talking about with this large hot man.
Yeah.
And it's just
the
like
way that he listens and the way that he receives that, and like doesn't go overly sympathetic or you know, do the things that a lot of times happens when you talk about a loss like that, is also very comforting to her.
Yeah,
and
I like
talk
this
about it either, which Tom was doing.
I like this scene
Tom,
a lot
during
because
that, he was like, "Who died? When did they die?
Yeah,
what kind of hurt is on your soul that I
Your
can
grief
exploit
is
later?
a trope. Tell me about it."
No, and that's why I really like this scene in particular. And there are a couple of others, like I mentioned the hotel one, where he is like describing more in depth like his issues with his like previous advisor and how how that influences his like teaching and mentoring style. Like, I thought that was very sweet. But like, these two characters are frequently doing really annoying, improbable stuff, but there are enough little scenes like this that where it sort of pays off, like where the characterization and the setting and like their relationship to each other and like their difference in age and position like really comes together and pays off, that I think is why the book works. So it's nice. This is a nice scene.
I think there's also something at the end of that scene. He comes close to saying something. I don't remember what it was, and I don't remember if it's.
I think he's about to tell her that he's had a crush on her for years.
Is that what it is?
Yeah,
But
I think
then
he's about
Jeremy
to
comes in.
drop that he was bathroom guy.
Yeah.
Yes.
And luckily,
I think
Irish
both
Jeremy
things.
comes in.
Both
and,
things, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
God damn Jeremy. Jesus.
And I think part of this interaction of how then she leaves the conversation with Adam to then go with Jeremy adds fuel to the fire later when
yes.
You're right.
Good point.
when, like I think that might be like the next scene is she's with Malcolm, her other friend at the coffee shop, and she
oh my god, Malcolm is such
mess.
a pansexual dream.
So they have
Yeah, I do love
really
Malcolm.
quick.
I love
so sorry.
Malcolm.
Malcolm's good.
Forever.
Malcolm Forever. I did like immediately clock that the best friends of the two romantic leads were going to get together. Like this was going to be a full When Harry Met Sally situation, and it was going to happen, and it was going to be great, and then it didn't. And it was.
This is Holden, not Tom, because Tom sucks.
Yeah, no, Tom sucks.
Yeah, no,
we haven't met the real best.
They're both
friend.
great friends, like great supportive friends. They're good guys.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're having coffee with Malcolm. She has a Wednesday at Schmerv AM coffee date with Adam every week to be seen having coffee. That's their 10 minutes a week. For some reason, we're having coffee with Malcolm at the same time.
At like 9:55.
Yeah.
And she's sitting there
she's freaking out because she just realized that like she likes him, likes him. And she's also finally figuring out that she's demisexual. So she's been sort of confused for a lot of the book. Well, not a lot of the book, but like she talks about a lot of the years,
a lot of her life
this.
before the book.
Yeah. Being really confused because she's like, I just don't experience attraction the way that it seems like other people do. And she's realizing that like she has to trust someone and like really respect them and really like or love them in order to experience any sexual attraction. And she's got the biggest boner for Adam that like has ever happened.
The pipette is full. Yeah.
And she's like, but he would never, not with me. Holden already, oh my God, she had this conversation with Holden where he was like, yeah, he's been talking about this girl. And I'm so glad that now he has a girlfriend because it's been long enough that he's been in love with you.
Tells her that it's her. He's like,
Yeah.
I'm so glad he finally got with you
And
because
her
he's been talking about this girl for so long.
But he
And her
doesn't.
imposter syndrome and her like deep, like, deep-seated dislike of herself or like distrust of herself makes her think, oh well, it can't possibly be me.
Well, no, but it's also because
yeah.
he phrases it in a way that's like he would only ever date this girl that he's been in love with for 3 years. And she's like, well, that's not me because he's only fake dating me. Oh no.
And we met 2 years and 11 months ago, which is much different than 3 years.
Yeah. So
But
anyway,
he was
she's
probably
telling...
watching her sleep before that. Before the bathroom
completely.
day.
Yeah, he was definitely
using
climbing
the
into her
force.
window.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So she's telling Malcolm, she's like, what would I even tell him anyway? Like, I can't talk to him about this. What would I just
That
say?
I
Like,
like him.
I
That
like
every
him.
time he's around, I'm horny for him. I don't.
Yeah.
It was
I
better
want to
words
hop
than
on
I
his
just said.
D. Is
No,
that what
that's
you
what
want
they
me to say to him?
Yeah, that's what the book was.
Yeah.
And then she's like, "Oh my gosh, he's here for the standing weekly appointment that I have with him at this time." My God, like she just never has her shit together.
overheard enough of it, but not that it was about him.
So what does she do, Andrew? What does she do?
She's like, well, if you have somebody who you secretly love and it's not me, then I have somebody who I secretly love and it's not you.
It's totally not
So,
you. I wasn't talking
there.
about you at all. I'm gonna
It's
lie.
definitely a guy named Jeremy.
She doesn't say that though.
No,
he
doesn't.
assumes that it's
No,
Jeremy.
he assumes that it's Jeremy. There's some faults on both sides of this divide, but yeah, she decides to pull the old switcheroo.
One thing that I loved is that she says, "Oh, it's not about you." I wasn't saying that, and he was like, "Yeah, I know." Like he was very he's
because he hates
the same.
himself too for
Right.
no reason.
Yeah.
But the thing that's nuts about him thinking that it's Jeremy is like Jeremy was the original. Yeah, so Jeremy was the original guy that we were fake dating to show that she wasn't into him. Now she is into him. So maybe we stop, but now we're just fake dating for grant funding.
Aren't scientists supposed to be good at maths? Because like that equation is fucked
It doesn't add up. It's
as soon
true. It
as
doesn't add
Jeremy's on the other side, you know?
I mean, maybe
Jeremy
he just
and
knows
Anna
Olive
seem to have
and
good
her
relationship.
Olive and her lying style enough at this point to know that she would never go as the crow flies between two points, like in a human relationship. She would always need to go the roundabout way.
Okay.
So that's like the big kind of 2/3 of the way through relationship complication. It doesn't like break up their fake relationship, but it sets both of them on an expectation that like after this, it is probably over. Like I think they both kind of understand. And she is obviously pushing the notion of being with him away because if she ever got involved with him, then he would disappear and she would actually lose him because so she can't get close to him.
Yes.
Yeah,
his
there's
lungs
like a big
would
event
fall
in
out or
Boston.
something.
Is like everyone's going to Boston is the
Everyone's
last
going to the
chapter.
big event
It's
in
conference time. It's academic conference time
Yep.
where they ask a bunch of super poor people to rent $300 hotel rooms for no reason.
Yep.
Yeah.
So what happens there is that both of her pals, the ones that they were going to room with, Ann is like, I'm taking my first boyfriend trip and we're having a room together. And then Malcolm's like, I decided to bunk in with these bitches. And so she has nowhere to stay. And so
And everyone's like,
Oh,
we just
no.
thought you'd stay with the hot guy.
We just thought you'd stay with the hot
You
guy
have a
that you're
boyfriend.
dating. Mhm.
yeah. And so
Because
she
they know he's the keynote speaker, even though she doesn't.
she
She
doesn't know
that
he's the keynote
speaker.
speaker.
Jeez whiz.
How?
Like, we're supposed to just trust that her science is so good.
Yeah.
Her
Like,
science is
with
so good because she
nothing.
isn't able to do any kind of analytical problem solving in any
Yes.
other relationship.
Or like
Very
noticing
focused.
that she never notices anything. Like this was
Yeah.
on the front of the program. She even says, "I'm sure it was huge on the front of the program, and I just didn't notice." Like,
It was probably on banners in the fucking lobby, man.
yeah,
Listen, if
we're just
it had
supposed to
been-
really hard trust that
If
she's
it
good
had
at
been
science.
No,
in
we're
between
supposed to
a couple of
trust
those little
peer
glass
review.
slides under a microscope, she would have noticed it because her
It's
science
true.
is so good.
That's all she thinks
true.
about is science.
Yeah.
Because she's
But,
been invited to speak on a panel
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
about her research. She was
She
supposed
doesn't
to
know
just
who
make
is
a
on the
poster.
panel with her.
Yeah, she doesn't know who's on the panel either. She's petrified of it. He helps her prepare. It's very sweet.
It
Yeah,
is.
helps
He's
her
like,
put her
send me your
PowerPoint deck
slides.
together. Yeah.
And she's like, OMG. Because like that honestly is love.
I mean, that's very erotic. Is like,
Yeah.
and just trying to make sure that he has like the right fonts and like the version of PowerPoint that he needs to open the file. Like it's very intimate.
Yeah.
But her backgrounds were lime green
They
Yeah.
were
on
indeed.
her slides that she
I
was going to
mean-
present to other scientists.
Maybe it was just supposed to be like an intentional homage to the early internet that didn't scan.
Nickelodeon aesthetic.
To a GeoCities, like
Yeah, like it was just like this is my Angel Fire presentation about pancreatic cancer.
My live
Under
journal
construction.
about pancreatic cancer.
Yeah, it has a little under construction GIF guy on the bottom.
Except he's
Yeah.
got like a microscope or something.
Yes.
This
Oh my
rules.
gosh.
But she's kind of terrified of that, but she's gonna stay with him in his hotel room. They have
Yeah, he offers to
twin
let her
beds.
stay.
Or
And he's
whatever,
like,
yes.
she's like, no, I can't possibly do that because there will only be one.
There will
bed."
only be one bed. Mhm.
And he's like,
Mhm.
what? No, I got a double bed. I got the confirmation email. I can
Yeah.
forward it to you. And she's like, no, when this happens, it's always only one bed.
Which it's kind of fun that she's always commenting on the romantic comedy tropes. You know, like, oh my gosh, we're fake dating. It's just like you know, like, oh, we're doing all the tropey things. There will only be one bed. It will be all these happenstances. But it's like she's never watched the end of one of these movies.
Totally.
You know? It's just like
There's
all of these things are happening to bring us together, but
I
we
think
couldn't
that
possibly.
might be right though, because I think early on when she's like, "Oh, I'm best friends with An. We always eat junk food and fall asleep watching movies." Maybe
God,
she
she's
never
the random
finishes the
one.
movie.
Oh my God, Craig, you're right.
She's never seen anybody get the.
She just
Wow.
at
Never
the
seen that
end, the
ending
hero
yet.
is like, "You're not good enough for me. Goodbye forever." She's
Yeah.
like, man,
Yeah.
those movies are so sad.
Yeah,
Famously,
she never
how
sees Matthew McConaughey get on that motorcycle and go
No.
across the bridge, you know, to
Richard
get that
Gere
yellow dress
probably,
lady.
Richard Gere probably just keeps paying her to show up. It probably
Yes.
never changes. It's probably
Yeah,
the
I
same
mean,
the
and
whole
everybody
time.
remembers the end of You Got Mail, where Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan are just like, "Okay, bye."
Bye.
And they
The funny thing
see
about
each other.
Melodies with Matthew McConaughey on the motorcycle is that
Mhm.
that could have been the wedding planner or How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days.
Yeah.
That's why I threw the yellow dress in there. You
Oh,
know
sorry,
what I'm
sorry.
talking
I
about
didn't
now.
hear
Sure.
that part. Sorry.
Yeah, he was also carrying his Lumford. I'm sure about it.
I recall.
So now she agrees, and because he says, I'm only going to be there for one night anyway. We'll only have like one overlapped night, and you know, we'll be
barely any time to have sex at all,
not
Yeah,
Mhm.
none.
mere
which
hours.
we won't
no never
because we agreed.
Mhm. So she goes and he like walks in early. She's like, he would never come to the hotel room that his name is on and he has a key to. And he does get there just in time to see her in her flatteringly shrunken little black dress.
Who
Yeah.
doesn't try on their outfit before they go to the thing?
Right?
Oh my God.
Yeah. Anyway, he's into it.
Yeah.
Hard
Yeah.
into it.
He can't
Yeah.
go to her talk because surprise, he's the keynote speaker.
He's the keynote speaker. Who knew? Who could
And then-
possibly have known?
Yeah. And then she gets to her panel and Tom Benton is like, fancy seeing you here. Oh, this is so cool. We have a panel together. And she's like, really? Oh my God. What a weird
Wait, but the talk and the panel are different things, right?
the keynote.
Yeah,
She's
but-
present. No,
speech
it's
is
like
different.
I-
No, it's
I
like
The keynote speech is the reason why Adam can't come to her presentation,
Right.
and that Tom and Olive are on the panel together is why he is at her presentation.
I've been to
Right.
panels like this through like medical school stuff that I've worked with, where
Yeah.
like it's like 4 or 5 people. They each do their like little mini TED Talk thing, and then they sit back down.
And
they're
then
usually
they do like a
thematically
moderated.
joined.
I understand that. Okay. Okay. So she had her talk, and then immediately following is the panel where it's like the Q&A.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay,
They all
cool.
get a turn.
I got
to
it,
be
I got
like,
it.
This is the science I'm doing. Now ask us questions.
Understood.
So it
Yeah.
goes really
Can we
well.
can we pause real quick? I heard
Yeah.
static coming from Craig again. Did y'all hear that too when he was talking
Static,
just now?
static.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's getting
Static,
crackly
static.
again.
Try yeah, just a little
Oh,
bit.
blurg.
Should
might
I
just-
leave and come back?
Can you
Yeah,
see your
we'll
like
watch you walk away,
Audacity
Craig.
waveform? Does it look
My Audacity
Weird.
waveform was fine, and it was fine the first time too. I think
okay?
Oh,
it doesn't
Well,
look like it's changing at all.
do you just want to bounce out and come back and see that?
Yeah, because so that you guys have good
Just for peace of mind.
video.
yeah.
Okay.
Well, and the Zoom's being
Okay.
recorded too. Yeah.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
Yeah.
I will come back. Sorry. Good catch, Andrew.
Thanks. That's what I'm here for.
What do you guys want to say about Craig now that he's gone?
Oh my gosh.
I mean,
Right.
his references aren't that good, right?
They're just they're just
Just-
oddly specific to things I know about.
Yeah.
This is Craig in a nutshell, though. Is he has like this encyclopedic knowledge of pop culture between like 2003 and 2011, and he's just always wheeling it out. Yeah, there he is.
Listen, I it's working. So
No, I'm not. Like, it's not a criticism because I knew he was going to come back in the middle of me saying that.
Yeah, we tried to talk about you while you were gone, but you came back so fast that we
my
couldn't get it all
gosh.
out.
There's just a lot of contemporary
still crackly.
television.
That you're
Really?
so staticky. Yeah.
Let me
I don't know.
try and hold on. Nope, not that.
Like, if you want to make funny memes about the show, the HBO show Boardwalk Empire that ended like 7 years ago, Craig is your man.
What about this? What about that? Still bad?
Still staticky.
Can't tell.
But I
Still-
just
we just
Okay.
talked about Boardwalk
I
Empire.
just brought up
Boardwalk
Boardwalk Empire in a recent episode. I was like, remember Boardwalk Empire? And Melody was like, no.
Well,
Yeah,
because
because
my
I had to duck out after that mom happened. I couldn't handle it after the mom.
after they boned, yeah.
After
that
they
was-
did fuck
that
each
was no
other.
good. Yeah.
I was not okay with it. It
No,
didn't work for me.
my 2-year-old is into the song "Get Lucky," and he just sits and he listens to it. And every time they say "Get Lucky," he says "Get Nucky."
Ooh.
And so Craig's thing was like, "What if I tweeted a really funny image of somebody?" And I said they were up all from Boardwalk Empire, and I said they were up all night to get nucky. And I was like, yeah, that would be that song from 2013 and that show from 2013 would be an excellent meme to do.
Yeah. I would like to make that a meme. Am I
I
still
think it would
crackling?
work.
Ah, damn it! You're
No,
still
still
All right,
crackling.
let me
I
switch
think
to
we
a
might
different.
just have to live with it.
No, I can switch to a different mic setup, and we'll see if that
Whoa.
fixes it. Give me 1 second.
Okay.
Hey.
It does mean that I'm going to stop my Audacity and start a new one, so give me 1 second.
Okay.
I have to do the count.
Full disclosure, Melody and I do not have more than one mic set up. That's pretty cool, you guys.
Yeah. Yeah. Seriously.
Well,
What
because
is it?
Craig also does like a Zoom trivia thing, so he has like a more complicated like mixer setup than I do.
Oh. Do you have like a slide deck? Wait, that's not right. What's it?
I don't use a slide deck because I was doing it weekly. For
Okay, I think you fixed it.
friends.
Yeah, I think it's fixed.
You did.
Wait, is it better now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't do it. Oh, I stopped the Audacity recording. Maybe that's not cool. I don't like that. Let me start a new Audacity recording and see if it fixes.
Okay.
Oh, maybe your computer's just thinking too hard. And
This is too
so
many
it's
recordings.
fucking up
We have
the-
invested so much stuff into this computer. It should not have that problem. How about now? Is it still
You're
bad?
crackling
Ah,
again.
it came back to
Crackling.
crackle again. Maybe we just have to live with it.
I think we might have to live with it.
If
I'm
you
fine
listen
with.
back to that Audacity, does it sound crackly? Because if it doesn't, then
Is it crackly now? It's crackly now. It's
it's crackly
crackly now. Let me
Mhm.
listen to the Audacity. The Audacity is perfect.
Okay, perfect.
All
All right,
right.
so we're gonna do a count and we're gonna live with it. We're going in the same order. Are we ready?
yeah, I remember what number I was.
Me
Okay.
too.
1.
2.
3.
4.
Yeah.
Got there.
Okay. So they do this talk, and then afterwards, everybody's like, wow, Olive, you've done such a good job saving pancreases all over the world. And she's like, wow, I really did. I barely stammered over words that I know backwards and forwards. It's totally cool. And then Tom fucking Benton comes slithering up to her and
What
holding
a heel turn. Like,
what a heel.
real
I mean,
he
bad.
went
No.
from 0 to 100% villain so
Yes.
fast.
Yeah,
Well,
it's like
there
a
were
guy
definitely-
who one friend of Adam's didn't like for reasons that he didn't disclose, to full on cartoon, like rubbing his hands together,
He's
tying
twirling his
Olive
mustache.
he's like tying Olive to train tracks while
Yes.
he's delivering this
Mhm.
monologue.
He
Yeah.
said like 15 things where like 2 things would have
Yes.
done enough like to
Most
make him a
definitely.
villain.
Mhm.
So yeah, he comes on to her. He, basically just tries to start kissing her there and then forcibly.
Yeah.
Without, she stops him.
I mean, to be
Rejects his-
fair, she's done that to others.
Yep.
So like,
And-
let's just
and the
call
book-
it even at this point.
I think the book is aware that it's doing that. I think.
Right.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know, I think
Most
Yeah, yeah.
definitely.
because there's also the author's note at the end where she talks a little bit more about Title IX stuff. So I think
Mhm.
she's like purposefully doing that.
Agreed.
Um,
yeah.
And he is then like, well, what? You were totally sleeping your way to the top. Why did you think I was going to give you this thing? And then he also, Aaron, he starts like villain monologuing about how he's like going to undo Adam's career from the inside and he's going to steal all her research. And he's, just takes off his face and it's a lizard and he's just an awful human.
True. Yeah.
And she's like, why are you doing this? And he's like, because I can. Because I'm a man in science. So no one will ever believe you.
Well, it is. I understand that it happens this way because it needs to happen this way because Olive, who is really good at pancreas science, but otherwise doesn't have 2 brain cells that she can rub together, has left her iPhone voice memo thing going from the presentation for this whole time. So she's caught it on tape and so she can fix it later. But the description we get of Tom otherwise is this guy who is actually really adept at using soft power and like manipulating people without them realizing that he's manipulating them. And for him to come fully out and to be full villain in this moment just feels, it feels like it's happening because it has to happen. And unlike a lot of the other stuff that happens in the book, it doesn't feel like it's happening because of reasons that are like rooted in character or Well,
and you're right. It's really interesting because so much of his character is using charm as social currency to get ahead. Mm-hmm. And so just, pulling back his face and showing his lizard parts is pretty surprising. There was a moment, however, where I didn't know where it was going, and it might be a commentary on me. But when he was saying, I have what you need, don't I? And the Harvard labs. I was like, wait. This is not the hero.
Is this about beakers?
I want to say. All right, let the record reflect that Melody was into Tom Benton during this speech.
Just like that one part.
And she was hoping this would end in a sexy throuple in Boston.
It could have.
I wouldn't hate it.
I'm sorry, Rooster's like right.
I'm always into the sexy throuple.
It's a hypothesis that didn't work out.
It's true.
Yeah.
But as scientists, it's good that you wanted to.
I explored it,
discover.
Andrew.
Yeah, empirically.
Don't worry about it.
Okay,
it's fine.
I do want to say this though, because I wish it was. I wish it was less of a full villain turn. I think you kind of touched on this, Andrew. Like, I wish it was not recorded. I wish it wasn't a full villain turn. I wish instead of it being recorded, she did have like a situation where maybe people didn't believe her, but Adam did. Or, because it's just not how it happens in real life. Like, somebody doesn't give you a villain monologue and step out and say like, I'm evil and I'm going to sleep with you when you come to Harvard. Like, instead it's like, it's like an undercurrent or like one comment where you're like, did that just happen? Am I wrong? Like, and you're second guessing yourself. And then you're like, if I tell somebody about this, how is it going to sound? And like, I wish it was something that was a little more realistic in that way.
Well, and the whole thing that like, so before she tells Adam about this, she tells Holden about this, who's Adam's BFF that we mentioned earlier. Mm-hmm. And he is, because he is the only one who had expressed any doubt whatsoever about Tom and his character and his motivations up to this point. And, because Holden and Malcolm have started boning, Malcolm is like, why don't you go? Yeah. And we're all very happy about that. But Malcolm is like, why don't you go ask maybe this guy's best friend in the whole world about how he would respond to this. And he says this thing about how, we're scientists and we are trained to
evidence.
To seek evidence and to change the way that we think based on what the evidence is, whether that agrees with what our hypothesis is, whether it's what we want or not. Mm-hmm. And I think even that point that the book is like explicitly making would be better made if she wasn't literally like Phoenix Wright, like presenting evidence, like here's the tape recording of this guy saying exactly the thing in exactly the terms that would be admissible in a courtroom.
I also you said earlier, Andrew, because like, he is this soft power guy that our two main characters are incapable of being. Like they can't function in the world.
They're guileless.
And so what I like about this being part of his supervillain power set is that like the book is not. It's not saying that if they had those skills, they would be better served, actually.
Right.
But I think you're right that he is smart enough that he would probably be playing a longer con than this moment.
He would have to get her there. Come on,
In
everybody.
the real world, she would have undoubtedly walked away from this conversation confused as to whether or not she'd heard what she thought she just heard, or what if he was actually saying the thing she thought he was just saying. And there would be nothing for her to latch on to of like, Tom said this to me and it was offensive.
Or at this point, it would have just been like way more, it would have just been charm. Like this is, it would still be charm because she's not in his lab yet. She owes him
Get her to the
nothing
lab
now,
before you try
right? You have to have power over her before you can exert power over her.
The only motivation
Dr.
that makes
B.
the only motivation I think that makes sense for him going this bad this soon is that he actually thinks she's too good of a scientist and doesn't want her in his lab at all.
Yeah.
Because he does say, like, no one will believe you. I have all of your notes. I'm just going to do your work.
Yeah.
And
I'm going to take it as mine.
so if he invites her, if he honors the agreement, yeah. But if he honors the agreement and then makes the play later, then there's like a whole, like, she came out to Boston. She's recorded as being part of his lab. Like,
No, I don't think he's. I don't think
I
he's
don't know. I don't think
intentionally-
that the book is
I don't-
really making this argument. I'm
No,
just trying to
I don't think
figure
he's
out a way
intentionally
that
trying to blow it up. I
Hazelwood
think
makes it-
maybe he's overplaying his hand because he thinks
Yeah.
because of all the stuff that you said is true. Like he thinks that even and you know, to support his hypothesis, like she is leaning in the direction of like not reporting him, not doing anything until she realizes that she literally has a voice recording of him saying all this stuff to her.
Right.
Because in between her going to Holden or talking to anybody about this, she like is very clearly shaken, and then she just goes back to the hotel room.
She's in
and
her
then she has a
hotel room now.
wonderful night with Adam.
Yeah. So
They go on a date and eat sushi.
A lot of conveyor belt sushi before this
Well,
very
wait.
lengthy sex scene, which I was like,
I'm
a
having
lot
some
of conveyor
trouble.
belt sushi. In
I
the
feel like there would be
digestive system for this.
gastrointestinal issues that
true.
would get in the
Like,
way of
she's
this
just
night. But
nomming on stuff that she's like, who knows what kind of fish this is? Room temperature.
I know this is out of character for me, but we do need to back up before we get to the sex.
all right.
And that is that when he walks in, the way that he handles this is really incredible for her. So she's crying and he's like, what happened? Who did this to you? And she says, basically, she tells him that people in general were saying that she's a bad scientist and that she's mediocre and that she's derivative. And the only reason she got on the panel was because she was his girlfriend and like all the things Tom said to her. And he is like, he just pokes holes in all of those things and really builds her back up. And then he tells her, I don't know if this is before or after. It's probably after. Doesn't matter. He tells her about his advisor and like really gets into the nitty gritty of it. Yeah. And the interesting thing about that is that Tom Benton was always there to sort of mediate the abuse that the advisor did on Adam. But we find out later from Holden that it was for things that like he would have no idea about Adam doing unless he had a spy on the inside.
Yeah.
So it seems like Tom has been his long con here. And this is why I think the heel turn is so unbelievable, because he's literally been doing this for 10 years with Adam. Is like getting him in trouble and then defending him and really making Adam the better scientist, think that Tom is, rely on Tom in other ways so that Tom can get good science out of him and put his name on it too. But she's crying and he's wiping tears off her face and it's all very cute.
Gently, thumb to cheekbone.
He does do the thumb on that cheekbone.
Yeah.
And then he's like, let's skip everything and we'll go out and we'll get you drinks and we'll get you food.
Let's just
Very
let's
cute.
do alcohol, and then on top of that, lukewarm conveyor belt sushi, all you
Yes.
can eat $20, and then on top of that,
Mhm.
like pumpkin spice sugar drink.
Yeah.
Oh no,
And
that
then
comes later.
And then as soon as you're done having the worst diarrhea of your entire life, we'll go back to the hotel room and
Yeah.
we'll have sex.
Yeah. Mhm. So they do go back to that hotel room, and she only has 2 beers, and it was hours ago. And it's noted for the record, everyone.
Yep.
Because after he sort of spills his guts to her, she's like, "Wow, it's time to kiss."
Mhm.
So
She did forget her. There's 2 beds, but there is 0 pajamas.
Yes.
So she has to wear his shirt, which is so big
What?
on her.
Oh my god!
Because he's such a big man.
He is. That's actually, yes, that is why, Andrew. Good job.
Yeah. And she's also wearing
you
these
seem
unicorn
confused.
knee socks. That like
Oh, she's wearing knee
whoa.
socks?
Wow.
Why can't she just like get her shit together for like one moment in time? Like,
Okay, so she does sidle on up to him, and she kisses him, and he's like, "Wow, this is a bad idea." And in her inner monologue, she's thinking, "Yep, he's totally right." But out loud, she keeps saying, "Why?" And so they go through all of it, and he's like, "I am in a position of power over you. It's a this, it's a that. I don't want you to change your mind later." He's like, going through all of it. And she's very like, "I don't care. This is all I want." And then she explains to him that she's demisexual. And
the
that
words
this
are
is a
never
big
said,
deal.
though.
Never
No.
said. No. She just says, like, "I can only experience sexual attraction when I have an emotional connection. And like, I really like you and I really trust you to infinity and beyond. So I do want you to put it in me right now." And
I think if this had been a thing that she'd only really recently discovered about herself, I don't think she would have the terminology to
agree.
No,
talk about
I
it
just
either.
think it's important to say that it's never said in the book. This is
Okay.
something we're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
we're
it is
labeling
believable that she wouldn't be like, I have yesterday I figured out I am a
Mhm.
demisexual. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. So
And they start with other stuff.
okay,
Yeah.
it's making out and there's a finger bang. There's
Yeah.
What we
a-
call
doesn't
on the
he
show
play
a
her too?
traditional Highlander finger banging.
That's the one.
Yeah. He's
He
got big
plays her-
knuckles, she says.
Yes.
Well, really,
the
does
first
she have
knuckle.
big
She's got
knuckles?
a problem with the first knuckle.
Or
That's
just-
nuts.
Because she has the
That's
teeny
this
tiniest
one.
little channel. Ooh, it's so tight and small and warm, he says later, or little maybe.
I don't know. They have a good time though.
So my favorite.
Listen, so okay,
All right.
Yada, yada.
Yes, no, go.
they're doing
go.
this finger bang, and he can tell that she's a little bit uncomfortable, and he's like, "Hey, you seem really tense. Like, are you still okay? You can say no anytime. Like, you don't have to go through with this." And she's like, "No, I've never wanted anything more." And so he's like, "Okay, but then you've done this before, right? Because things seem a little like not." And she
Like,
says,
yes.
"Yeah."
I've gotten finger blasted twice in college. And now
And so then he's like,
everyone
He's
who's
like-
listening is figuring out, like, all the Overdue listeners are like, this is why it said explicit at the start. Like, it's
Yeah.
just been a lot of science. Like, when is it getting to
when
the
are they gonna
finger
get-
blasting?
When are we going to get to the
Now.
finger blasting factory? Yeah.
Now
Yeah.
is when it is.
it's here, everybody. So okay, so then he's like, "No, I can't do this. We have to stop. You're basically a virgin." And she says one of the cutest science rants. Okay, so
she does do a science rant.
Yeah.
she does an adorable science rant right now, and I'm going to read it to you. So
Please.
he says, "You're basically a virgin." She's like, "I'm not." And then he goes, "But so close to it." And she's like, "No, that's not the way it works. Virginity is not a continuous variable. It's categorical, binary, nominal, dichotomous, ordinal, potentially. I'm talking about chi-square, maybe Spearman's correlation, logistic regression, the logit model." And
I knew when you started. I didn't want to be like, there's going to be a lot of words in this, Mel, but like, I wanted to believe in you.
and that stupid sigmoid function. Listen, I got most of them, but
I'm sorry, I'm
LOGIT
sorry.
did throw me for a loop. Logit, I think.
Logit.
Yeah.
Logit?
And he's taken with this.
Oh
likes
man,
it.
he does
Well,
a
of
laughing
course,
kiss
this
on
gets
her.
Just rock hard. Yeah.
Ooh.
Mhm.
Yeah. So then he's like, "Okay, we're still doing this, but we do have to go about it a bit differently." And I like that he has, multiple paths to get to the same
Yeah.
place. It's nice.
Yeah. Mhm.
It's nice. So then he does do a go down on her.
Yes.
And she's like, oh, no, don't. I've never done this before. She actually says, I'm the one who put you up to this. So like, we should do stuff on you that you're into.
We should do stuff that you want to do. Yeah.
She's like, you don't want to do this. This is something I want to do. And then he like puts her hand on his like super rock hard erection. It's like, I do want to do it. And then he starts going down on her and she's like, you don't want to do this. And he's like, I'm the hero in a romance novel. Like I do really want to go down on you for the most time possible.
Yeah. She says,
and he always fell asleep before that part of the movie though, so she doesn't know that this is how.
Right.
That's true. That's true. This all happens off camera in the wedding planner and other 10 things I hate about you. And
indeed. So, okay. So as this is happening, he's like, no, I love it. She's like, I think it's going to take a long time. I'm nervous. And he's like, yeah, take as much time as possible. Later on, he's like, I want to go down on you until you pass out.
Yeah.
And she's like, no, please.
At one point,
No,
he's like,
stop.
you have to stop talking or else I will come and you need to stop because I need to just keep going.
Yeah.
It gets to the point where she's like, sir, please stop. Like,
yeah. Like things are too sensitive already.
it's enough.
Pull it a little. So then they do have missionary sex and it's really good. This is when he's like, no, your voice is too hot. Like I'm going to blast off.
They have unprotected sex.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, but she's on birth control and she's clean. Two things she says verbatim.
Hate that.
He never
hate the word clean.
Says that he's also been tested recently.
Yeah.
No. It's only really a worry for her. Yeah.
Yeah. You think that you could have had like a little callback to Flucella there? You could have talked about like
my God.
what we're protected against. We don't need to talk about Flucella, but it's a thing that happens.
Yeah, he's afraid of needles.
Yeah.
Something I really like about reading romance novels on my Kindle is, how Kindle has that feature where if a lot of people highlight something, then the Kindle tells you the thing that a lot of people highlighted.
Please read aloud for us.
The one section of the sex scene that a lot of people were really into is this is Olive saying, this is the start of the underline. 1,827 people highlighted this part of the book. You're so big, says Olive. He groaned into her neck. His entire body was vibrating with tension. You can take it. And that's the highlight.
To be fair, I also highlighted it.
No, it's good. You were one of the 1,827 people.
Yeah.
I will say that
it's right there.
When people on social, so like when this book then got the backlash and was like, this book is cringe. The thing in the sex scene that people were like, oh yeah, this sex scene is the worst. People were mad about the part where he puts her whole boob in his mouth.
That part was.
So I just want to mention it. At one point, he does take his big, huge Kylo Ren mouth and just suck her whole Rey boob
her
into
whole
it.
tit in there.
And I did.
When you're one with the Force,
one with the Force. The Force. I had an issue with that both from like a logistical standpoint and from would anybody be into this
on either side, really. Like,
the next day her tits are sore because of
because
he
sucked her entire boobies in his mouth.
She probably has like a full boob hickey. Like that would take a lot of suction to get in there.
Absolutely.
She
Plus,
did
like
say
the teeth.
She wanted to do things that he was into, Andrew.
That's true. And the full boob, the boob and mouth.
Mm-hmm.
I want to do.
He can only get off if he has a woman's full boob.
Yeah.
They call that the Bunsen burner, is what they call it.
Oh, nice.
That's called the Petri dish. No, I think maybe the Petri dish. The Petri dish is later when he like goes down on her again and licks all of his own
and cleans her up. Cleans up both
that's the Petri dish, and it's very important to clean up your lab when you're finished doing science.
It really is.
Serious about it. He doesn't need no janitors in here. Okay. So they do have good sex. It's like transformative.
I can't say janitor because it just makes me think about him throwing sawdust. Oh no. All right.
But look, it's stuff he's into.
Yeah,
Andrew.
it's true.
Jeez.
He's a wunderkind.
This is so funny.
I like what. Here's one part from the sex scene that I liked.
Oh yeah.
It's right after the part
Just
the
one
highlight we
part?
just read.
Yeah.
No, just I like this part because
And it wasn't
so
Titmouse.
they start. It was not Titmouse. They start having sex, and then Adam pulled out, pushed back in, and they annihilated the no sex rule. I
Yeah.
like that. Like the annihilation of the rule felt physical
Mhm.
and
Oh.
like part of the action of them having. It was just
It's
I don't know,
kinetic.
the shift
Yeah.
from it
Sure.
being the shift from it being descriptive of their bodies to being descriptive of their relationship just worked for me.
Yeah.
I liked it. And
Agreed.
yeah, they broke that part of the contract. They ripped it up, and then they had sex
Man.
on top of it.
Yeah.
So much
and then-
sex though.
So much sex.
Like so they do the traditional Highlander finger banging. Then he
Yes.
goes down on her.
Yeah.
Then they do missionary penetrative sex.
Yeah.
Then she takes a little naparino, little snoozer,
Little, yeah.
small
She
snoozer.
does- she
Just
does-
go tap.
She
down
does
on her
also
again.
come again to the penetrative sex. too.
Yes,
Yes.
she does.
Yeah.
Which,
Yeah.
like, come on, it's fine.
Then he goes
No,
down
she's
on her
had sex
again.
in like 12 years or something like that. It's hard to come after you haven't had sex for like 12 years.
She's like really into this is Kylo Ren. So then he goes down
True.
on her again just to clean up all the splooge down there.
yeah.
Yeah.
Then she gives him a beach.
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
Then he's like, "Can I fuck you again?" And she's like, "No, sir. Like Jesus. Like we have to sleep. Like my God." Which when he said when he was like, "Can I fuck you again?" I was like, "Okay. Like come on." And I'm really glad that was also her reaction. to
I'm
that.
sure there are a lot of books where she would be like, yeah, all right, let's just
Well,
keep
no,
going.
that's the reason
but-
that she goes down on him because
Oh, you're right.
like
you're right,
you
you're right.
did go down on me and I had a big old orgasm. I would like do the same for you. And he's like,
Yes.
no, Olive, you don't have to. Oh no, does it even fit in your tiny mouth? I don't know. And it does. It's fine.
Yeah, it does. And she's like,
Yeah.
"I've never done this before. Has
Yeah, tell
anyone
me."
ever done it to you?" And he's like, "Yes, because I'm a 34-year-old man. I've had a blowjob before."
Just
Yeah.
imagine that you're trying to fit somebody's whole titty in your mouth. And
Yes.
it's kind of like that.
I'm here.
Yeah.
Okay, so then
Okay.
she's like, when do you leave for your Harvard interview situation? Because he's like, I am maybe going to be in Harvard next year to take you on hikes and like maybe finger blast you in the outdoors.
Mm-hmm.
And she is like, oh, like she's thinking to herself, well, I'm not taking that job with
Correct.
Tom Benton. So like this is super definitely over. Because also one of the things she doesn't want to report Tom Benton because she doesn't want to sabotage Adam's like incredible grant and collaboration and all the things, even though he gets like 20 grants a year.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I'm like, who wants
Yeah.
to work with a guy who just tried to like rape your girlfriend? Like,
And they've unfrozen his funds, so he's like,
Oh, yeah,
good to
she
go.
finds
Except
that
for the
out.
20
Yeah.
million
Yeah, and so she
True
thinks he must
Holden.
be gone. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, okay, long story short, she breaks up with him because it's the 29th. His funds are gone. His funds are, in the world.
We're back.
And
yes.
and An and Jeremy are happy together because let's review, that is why this all started.
yes.
And then he's
Yep.
like, as she breaks up with him, he's like, no, if you never need anything, like I want you to come to me. I'm still here for you no matter what. And like, I will love you from afar, just like I did before. No worries. And then, so she goes back, she does find that recording. And then she's like, okay, I have empirical evidence. I'm going to do science on this motherfucker. And Holden says, yeah, Adam likes Tom, but like he would not be into anybody who behaves this way. So, and that he's not like hard up enough to even consider working with this man just for a grant.
Yeah. And also, he only said he was going to go to Harvard like the day after he learned that you were going to go up there.
Yes. Yeah,
Yes.
exactly.
Yeah.
So she goes to one of the restaurants in which he is doing an after interview dinner. And as soon as she walks in the door, he like sees her with his force eyes. And then he gets up and like levitates all the way over there immediately. And he's like, why are you here? What's going on? Did you change your mind? And she's like, I have things to tell you. And then
And
Tom
Tom
comes
Benton
over.
like runs up. He's like, "Hey, I'm here too."
Oh, hey,
Hey, I'm Tom.
Hey, oh, yeah, hi. Can I intimidate you from right now? And so she starts playing the recording, and Adam does go berserker mode, and
Yeah.
he physically attacks him.
Pushes him like a truck. Yeah.
Pulls out his lightsaber and pretends like Tom is a control panel on the Star Destroyer.
Whooshes
True.
that lightsaber.
He swooshes it hard.
Whoosh.
So then he gets Tom fired. He puts her on a plane, and like they get back to San Francisco at the same time somehow. It's fine. And now they're gonna do a double date with Malcolm and Holden.
Mhm.
Very
And
cute.
like they're gonna be together forever. And it's
Yeah.
so cute. And they're
Yeah.
so comfortable together at dinner. And it's great.
But
What?
this is when she figures out that
Oh.
she was the girl he was in love with for 3 years. And she figures out for sure that he was the bathroom man. And
Yeah.
also that he remembers that he was the bathroom
Yeah.
man.
Mhm.
Which is, and when he figures out, because she tells him that she's not, that Jeremy wasn't the guy she was in love with.
Yeah.
Like, let's just all consider that this is the dinner where these two hot dummies figure all of that out. And we needed like Chinese fortune cookies to do it.
It's good that they got together, because otherwise 2 whole other people would have to date them and deal with all this stuff. They really are made for each other in this way.
It's
Really.
Don't they go back to the bathroom in the epilogue?
That's the epilogue. Aaron, did you read the epilogue? It's a
Of course
hard no.
not. I don't read epilogues.
I didn't think it was
Yeah.
a bathroom. I thought it was the like by
They
the
go to the
water fountain
hallway.
where they kiss the first time. Yeah.
Yeah, they go to
okay,
the
sure.
hallway. It's like 1 year, and she's like, it's 10 more seconds until the time when I did assault you that first time.
Mhm, mhm.
Oh,
And-
that's right.
Yeah. And so they like, so then they start talking about like, oh yeah, we did this and we did that. And it's like so cute. And we're still here at Stanford because she also got a closer lab job. It's all
Berkeley.
great. Everything's
Berkeley,
coming
yes.
up. These hot dummies. It's great.
Mhm.
And like I think the closing line is something like it's similar to the end of the prologue, where it's like she has a good reason to do science and to like stick it out in science, and he's the reason now too.
Ooh.
Mhm.
I think that's what it means. It's something like that. I don't remember what the exact wording is, but
I made
She's
like
got
an
it. No-
affirmative noise like I knew, but I've already said I didn't read it.
You don't read episodes.
Yeah, I did say that. But it sounded right.
yeah, it sounds like something the book would do. Like,
Yeah,
I
it
remember
sounds like the
reading it-
right way to end it. Yeah.
Remember reading it, being like, "Oh, that's why the prologue ended that way." Like it felt like Star Wars, it rhymed with itself.
Yeah. And the very last line is, "May I kiss you, Dr. Carlson?"
Oh.
So at least she fixed
That's
that.
Yeah, she is asking for consent this time.
Yeah.
Well, that's nice. We've all learned.
I know. Big growth in this book,
I
I'll
had
tell
fun
you.
with these
Science,
dummies.
baby.
Just
Wasn't it
science,
fun?
baby.
And there were a lot of times that we sort of skipped over where like there was really good romantic tension and banter and like I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah,
It
a lot,
was-
lot of little cute
Yeah, they have-
interactions between them.
Yeah, it was pretty
They have
evocative
a lot of good
in
banter.
that way.
It's true.
And it does get overshadowed by when she like cakes him in sunscreen in front of all of her friends
In
and
front of
colleagues.
his bosses.
But there are a bunch of quieter moments also that are
Yeah.
that make the relationship work.
Yeah.
Something for
Ju-
everyone.
Justify
I
the
just-
sunscreen stuff.
I just feel like someone in the advisory board might just say, like, just might put an extra eye on her to be like, she's one of our leading young grad students, but she's very comfortable lubing up her professor boyfriend at a picnic. We should maybe
Give him
that's
his
not
grant money
the
back.
slam-
Yeah. Release
Yeah.
the funds.
So funny to me.
No, nobody needs to open an investigation into anything or anybody. The only
No.
investigation that needs to happen is why is this man not being given the full use of his grant money?
He earned it. Okay,
Yeah, it's true.
everybody.
And also now Holden and Malcolm are in a professor-student relationship.
Yeah,
But it's okay because nobody
once
is each
again,
other's advisors, so
Different
it's all fine.
departments. It's all in different
Yeah.
petri dishes.
It's all
you know?
technically on the up and up. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this
Thanks
is
for
fun.
this recommendation, friends. This
No,
was
this is a fun book.
You're
I
Time.
did
welcome.
enjoy these
Yeah.
two stupid idiots.
They
So
were
now we've
We
done a
managed to fight each other.
historical,
Yes,
a
we've done
historical
historical.
paranormal, and we've done a contemporary. So
Mhm.
we'll have to.
We'll just
do
keep hitting
something
you
else
with
next
other
time.
subgenres.
Yeah.
Craig, we're gonna have to figure out what book we're gonna make them read. And I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
it needs to be
Oh no, like a literature book.
as far from no,
like
not
no
like-
smooches at all.
I'm not gonna say none smooches.
I'm going to tell you right now, I am anti. I will strike against Lady Chatterley's lover. It's not
Sure,
going to happen.
that's
fine.
fine.
That's
Yeah.
fine.
I think we can find something that is. I feel like something in something else in a fantasy context would be fun, or a
I think it'd be
sci-fi
really
fun,
context.
yeah.
We
Yeah, I
we
feel
can
You
think
guys
about
just
it.
did As I Lay Dying, which I loathe more than almost any book in the history of time. So like you
I
almost
also-
can't do worse
Yeah,
than that
news
for me.
the news you can use. I also did not care that much for As I Lay Dying.
God, I hate As I Lay Dying.
I feel like there's something in our kind of YA fantasy vein that might be a good kind of
Yeah.
like exploration of genre stuff
Totally.
that we could do together would be really fun.
Totally.
Okay.
Well, we'll think on it.
Into it. All right. Bye.
Bye.